and Friday, 8 to 11 a Eastern Time. Your home for all things Big 12.
With the second pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select David Bailey, linebacker, Texas Tech.
And away we go on a Friday. Happiness is a choice. Thank you for choosing us, along with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin. Great to have you with us today and every day here in your home for the Big 12. Tune in Big 12 Studios. We are presented by Modelo, and a lot to unpack from the first round of the NFL Draft. I said it on the show yesterday. You agreed. The over-under was 5.5, perfectly set for the Big 12 because 6 players came off the board, which, again, is what I expected to happen. And it is a historical day in some ways for the Big 12 because it's the first time the Big 12 had 3 top 10 picks since 2012. First time the Big 12 had at least 6 first-round picks since 2011. So the historical context for what the Big 12 did, James, day one, cannot be lost considering, again, a conference that for many years at the top with Texas and Oklahoma producing the majority of draft talent. We see a ton of variety over the last 2 years with first-round picks and top 10 picks. When you think about last year with Colorado and Arizona having 2 top 10 picks, this year you have Utah and Texas Tech and Arizona State with top 10 picks. Additionally, UCF gets into the first round, so there's just a variety of Big 12 teams sending players to the first round of the NFL Draft.
Dude, it was a massive night last night for the Big 12, and sure, the Big 12 had 2 guys taken in the top 10 last year, but that was it. Nobody else taken in the first round from this conference. And for this league to have 6 players taken in the first round, it matches the league high since 2011 alongside the 2023 draft, but that also included Texas and Oklahoma as part of that group. The current Big 12 teams had 5 guys taken in the first round in the 2023 draft. We just beat it last night with 6. And if we're baby stepping this thing, Texas Tech and their pedigree getting a bye in the college football playoff, if we're baby stepping it with now let's get a win or more teams in the college football playoff, recruiting rankings are higher than they've ever been for this conference in this new era. This was another massive step last night. Having 6 guys taken in the first round, I think it says a lot about the league and the pedigree and that the Big 12 is legit, especially with 3 in the top 10. And I got a little nervous. I don't know about you, but the offensive tackle from Miami, who many projected to be the first lineman taken off the board, even before Fano, when we got to pick 6, the Chiefs traded up. I thought they were taking him there. When we got to pick 7 and still no offensive lineman off the board, I thought this could be bad for Spencer Fano or for Fano to fall outside the top 10, but he didn't. The league ends up with a massive night. It couldn't have played out any better for the conference.
Yeah, David Bailey goes second to the Jets. Jordan Tyson 8th to New Orleans. There were some rumors, at some point during this process that Tyson might fall to the end of the first round, but he stays in the top 10. He's the second receiver off the board. Spencer Fano, to your point, first tackle off the board, 9th to the Browns. Max Ahanichor goes 21st to Pittsburgh. Malachi Lawrence, the UCF pass rusher, goes 23rd to Dallas. They're hoping he's similar to another Lawrence pass rusher they took in the early rounds of the draft. And then Caleb Lomu goes 28th to the Patriots. Interesting pick there, and we'll go deeper on all these picks later on in the show. Ryan Roberts, who does a great job in covering the draft, joins us coming up in about 15 minutes. But Lomu is maybe the most interesting of the first-round Big 12 picks because last year New England selected a left tackle with their first-round pick in Will Campbell. And, Lomu is a guy that moved from, or rather, Spencer Fano moved from left tackle to right tackle to accommodate Caleb Lomu moving to left tackle. I guess New England projects Lomu as a right tackle, but just kind of an interesting dynamic there to basically take back-to-back left tackles in the first round for New England.
Well, I think that shows a massive area of need, and I've said massive now 4 times in this first 5 minutes, so I've got to stop that. It's a huge need for New England. They have to protect Drake May, and I think in the playoffs it was evident that was a glaring weakness for that football team. And Lomu's the perfect guy in terms of versatility. He can play either side of the line. He can slide inside or outside, depending upon what you need. And so I love the pick, and I love that he's protecting for a quarterback that's one of the most exciting, up-and-comers in the NFL. You pair him with Campbell, and that's a massive addition for New England. All the fits I thought were really exciting. Maybe the only one that I was like, okay, who's going to be throwing him the football was Jordan Tyson going to the Saints. I would have loved to have seen him land with Washington or somebody else that maybe has a little more high-octane offense. But everybody else, like Hanachor, is going to be an amazing fit in Pittsburgh. They just churn out Pro Bowl offensive linemen. I love Lawrence to the Cowboys. Taman's all giddy this morning because Dallas had a tremendous draft. You mentioned the other Lawrence, DeMarcus Lawrence, who shares the same last name, but also he's got some Micah Parsons in him in terms of his versatility. So a great find there for Dallas at pick 23. I couldn't be happier with what happened last night.
Yeah, I thought Lawrence was maybe a bit of a reach for the Cowboys. We'll see. You know, and I want to go deeper on all these picks coming up on the show. We'll hear some audio and what the players had to say, what some of the analysis of all these picks was. But what was your biggest surprise of round one?
Well, I thought things really went off the rails at pick 3 with Jeremiah Love going to the Cardinals.
Yeah.
There had been rumors that he was skyrocketing into the top 5, but him at number 3, which it makes sense when you look at Arizona's backfield and the contract situation and the aging vets that they have there, but there had also been a lot of talk about them trading back out of that pick to get him maybe a little bit later on. Ashton Jeanty didn't exactly light the NFL on fire last year. He averaged 3.4 yards per carry, and that was a big reach, many considered by the Raiders taking him at 6. So that's probably where it became unhinged for me, watching Arvell Reese slide as far as he did, and then watching like Reuben Bain sliding to number 15, Ty Simpson to be taken at 13th by the Rams was probably the biggest like overall shocker. And then the Chiefs, like huge Chiefs fan, grew up in Kansas, to see them trade up to number 6. I was quite surprised that they traded up to get a cornerback, but they've had a lot of success drafting corners over the years, so I'm okay with it. They had a ton of draft capital. So to answer your question, that's a very long-winded way of saying there were a ton of shockers last night.
Yeah, I mean, Ty Simpson at 13 was just a crazy shocker. And when you're thinking, oh, it's the Rams, you know, this is a team that knows what it's doing. And, I mean, then you see their press conference following the draft, and McVay just looked like shell-shocked. You know, you got a team that's, you know, got a Super Bowl window right now with a 38-year-old quarterback with a chance to take, you know, a Malachi Lemon. I mean, just many other places they could have gone. It was just very interesting to see them take a guy in Ty Simpson in the top 15 who many thought could fall out of the first round entirely.
Exactly. Like, you can get him later in the first round, or even like trade up into the back half of the first round, and you can nab him there. I understand the thought process, and I actually love it. Like, I love the idea of having an aging veteran quarterback in his prime and then drafting somebody to stash him for a couple of years. I think that the NFL, this draft and play and perform at that position immediately is unfair to a lot of these guys. So it's a great situation for Ty Simpson. But you and I were talking before the show just about the shock factor from Sean McVay, because I would have assumed he was the cheerleader in the room for Simpson.
Right. It's exactly my thought, too. So it was really kind of interesting and maybe telling that this is not a good pick, the way that McVay reacted to it. What I think is really interesting, too, is we look at the first round of the draft, James, was a piece that came out yesterday before the first round from Bruce Feldman of The Athletic, why some NFL coaches think the transfer portal is killing prospect development. And, I mean, basically the premise here is that the positions, especially in the trenches, defensive line, and specifically interior defensive line and offensive line, that the transfer portal and NIL has dramatically impacted the development of those players. And basically the premise being that, like, when you're in a strength and conditioning program, you know, in the same one year over year and developing within that system, that if you're constantly transferring to different places, it's really hard to develop at those positions. And, and basically, like, the evaluators are feeling like these guys are coming in underdeveloped, and that's a big reason why only 2 interior defensive linemen came off the board in the first round. Now, 9 offensive linemen did, and there's really some interesting subtext that goes along with that, but only 2 interior defensive linemen came off the board in the first round. And one in one evaluator, according to Bruce Feldman in his piece, says this is the worst D-tackle group in 10 years. It's horrible. The coach who got to start at college football said a big reason for the lack of elite interior defensive linemen is the shifting dynamic around the portal. Quote, the players are not being trained in the weight room the way they used to be. It's development, building their foundation. We're really not getting that anymore because so many guys are transferring around, going to 2 schools, 3 schools, also being scared to train guys and push them too much because they'll get in the portal. They're going to all these different places, and they don't have a foundation with the fundamentals. We're not getting the same developed foundation of guys that were there 10 years ago, even 5 years ago.
Which makes sense. And I think the point that you brought up earlier in the week with the lack of want to is one part of it. When guys are making millions of dollars in college, the lifelong dream of playing in the NFL and making that kind of money starts in college. And so it kind of waters down playing in the National Football League, I think, for some. And then the other part, the strength and conditioning makes total sense. You go to a new school, you've got a completely new program. That's maybe one of the most underrated aspects of collegiate athletics is just how different each and every strength and conditioning program is. You get into a routine when you're at one school, same time, same lifts, same goals, and then it completely changes when you get to your next school. And then the other piece is the NIL piece. Like there's the kind of subplot here is that some of these NIL deals reportedly include like clauses exempting players from special teams, which is a great way to make an NFL roster. And then to your point, maybe these strength and conditioning programs are kind of tailored to make sure that your key guys aren't pushed too hard. And a lot of that translates in a negative way to the NFL. And so how many of these guys from the first round were transfer portal guys? I'd love to see the data. But I think a lot of these guys that were taken in the first round are guys that, even if they were transfers, they had been at the same school multiple seasons. And so they had grown and they had developed paired with their 4- and 5-star talent.
I actually don't buy this article as much as I love Bruce Feldman, and I think there's a few specific reasons for it that aren't related to NIL and the transfer portal. But let me ask you first, what is the job of a college coach? Is it to win, or is it to develop draft picks, develop guys to get to the NFL?
Great question. It's to win. That's it. That's what the fans care about. That's what the players, the coaches, the administration, like everybody has a boss, right? And if you're a coach of a college football team, you aren't gauged off of how many guys you churn out to the NFL. The administration and the powers that be want to see how many football games you win and how much revenue you bring to the university.
Yeah. And I don't know that those are exactly mutually exclusive, but I do think that there are elements of it that, like, in some cases, to win, you have to take some shortcuts, maybe with players, and it might not be for the players' best interest in terms of the schemes you may be running or the strength and conditioning part of it. So I think that's the aspect of, my goal, number one, as a football coach, is to win for this school and not to necessarily do things that help to develop that player to get to the next level. I think it's a really interesting dynamic. Now, here's why I disagree with the premise of this article. And I get, I buy it on spec, but you look at the all-pro list in 2025 of interior defensive linemen, okay? Zach Allen and Jeffrey Simmons were the 2 AP all-pro interior defensive linemen last year. And immediately it checks out. Simmons played 3 years at Mississippi State, didn't transfer. Zach Allen, 4 years at Boston College, same deal. So that supports the argument. But when you go deeper, you realize something completely different. The majority of these guys, in fact, all of these guys that are all-pro players going back multiple years in the interior of the defensive line, are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year NFL vets. Okay, so there are no rookies, second-year players, even third-year players in the interior of the defensive line that are all pro players. So what does that tell you? Now, maybe it says they started the development at the collegiate level, and if they transfer, it stunts their growth, or it says that they've got to develop for basically a decade of the NFL before they become the best players that they could possibly be. So I get the strength and conditioning part of it, but I don't think whether they're staying at the same school or going elsewhere, the development is lacking. They're developing mostly in the NFL. And this, expand this out. It's not just, those 2 guys. The other guys that were part of other lists, Leonard Williams was an AP second team All-Pro. He's been in the NFL for a long time. Cam Hayward, It took him many years coming out of Ohio State to develop into the player that he's become. Quinnen Williams is maybe the youngest of these guys that made an all-pro list at the interior of the defensive line. So to me, it's sort of an incomplete argument because all of these guys have to develop for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years in the NFL before they become the best players in the NFL.
And defensive line and defensive tackle specifically is the one position where if you get a stud defensive tackle, you know that he's going to be there for a decade. Like, it's not surprising to me that these guys are 7, 8, 9-year NFL vets. It's why it's a premium position. It's why it's one of the highest paid positions in the NFL because they're really hard to find. So this tells me that these NFL scouts and coaches, sure, maybe it's a little more difficult to find those guys because there aren't as many coming out of college. But essentially, like the defensive tackle that the Chiefs took at pick 29 is a defensive tackle from Clemson. And he's been at Clemson. He's not a transfer guy.
Yeah, Peter Woods.
He had a really good year 2 years ago. He would have been a top 10 pick in last year's draft.
Yeah.
He regressed this year. And some of it had to do with Clemson's defensive schematics. They weren't as good and crisp and fundamentally as sound. The alignments were off this year. He had a down year in terms of his production.
But he stayed at the same school, and yet you could argue that that was a big reason for why his production dipped.
Exactly. So it's like grasping at straws in some ways for that position. Now, I do think the receiver position is interesting to me. Jordan Tyson is a transfer, yes, but he's been at Arizona State, 3 years, and developed into one of the best receivers in the country. T-Mac was at Arizona for a long period of time. The other receiver taken in the first round, Lemon, is a guy that was at USC his entire career, but then Concepcion from Texas A&M, he was a transfer. And that position is one that I do think, one, it's a deeper position. Like guys taken in the second, third, fourth round can blossom into starters right away. And so maybe there's something there with just in terms of it's harder to identify really good wide receivers because the numbers aren't what they used to be. The consistency isn't what they used to be. It's a new offensive coordinator. It's a new position coach for guys that transfer, and maybe that hurts their stock. But to me, if a guy wants to play on Sundays in the NFL, like this article highlights, there's a lot of benefits at staying at the school you're at.
Yeah.
Especially if you're getting like reps and production, you can really help your stock versus the risk of transferring somewhere and having to start over.
And look, I'm not suggesting that it's not a good deal to do that. I'm suggesting that the premise of this article is kind of faulty and that most are just going to complain about NIL in the transfer portal. I don't know that there's as much substance to back this up. That's all I'm saying. Basically, like what the data shows is that it's the interior of the defensive line. You need to be, developed in the NFL for a decade before you become, at the top of the league. And offensive line, I'm willing to buy it a little bit more. So 9 offensive linemen came off the board in round 1. 7 of the 9 did not transfer. The 8th, Max Ahanichor, is a JUCO transfer, right? So that, doesn't exactly count. The only guy who was a, Division I transfer that was drafted in the first round last night was Keelan Rutledge, who started at Middle Tennessee State and then went to Georgia Tech. And even there, he was at Georgia Tech for multiple years. I just think the reason these guys don't transfer is because it's such a premium position that if you have a guy that's that good, you're going to pay him in order to stay. And so there's just not that as much availability at the offensive line that allows for guys to transfer. You're just not going to let that guy transfer. So, I think it's a really interesting piece. You got some really interesting quotes from NFL executives. I think it's faulty in that it's not exactly the best reasoning. Like it's not causation. There might be a correlation there. There's no, but like I should say the opposite. There might be some causes there, but it's not a direct correlation. I think there are way other factors.
Yeah, and a piece like this seems to come out every NFL draft season.
Right.
Like last year, it was all about the quarterbacks and that position. Now we highlight defensive linemen, but the offensive linemen, like you said, dominated round 1 with 9 coming off the board, more than a quarter of all the first round selections. But it started a little bit later than I think we anticipated. But 7 tackles, 2 interior linemen with Spencer Fano, the first off the board at number 9. Like, it was really cool to see Utah kind of bookend that offensive line run with the first pick and the last pick of the first round. And then wide receivers were the second most selections of position groups. I was a little surprised to see 5 guys taken. We didn't even mention Carnell Tate going number 4 to the Titans which Titans fans are ecstatic about because they need a wide receiver. But I thought that was a little bit surprising. He was projected to maybe even be the second best receiver in the draft outside of Tyson. So when he went number 4, I felt really good that Tyson was going to go in the top 10. And then edge rushers are the other position group that were prominent with Bailey and Bain and Reese, and just the depth of that position. Malachi Lawrence is fascinating to me at 23 because there were rumors that the Cowboys would take him at 20, right? So just a lot of storylines from the draft, but you're right, these nitpicking pieces come out about this time every year.
All right, Ryan Roberts, NFL draft and college football analyst, joins us next. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Robertson. It's picked off. Keith Abney with the pilfer.
Up to the field side here, and he's home again! Changing up the look, the result is the same for David Bailey.
56% on the year on conversions. Jackson's in trouble and down. David Bailey, he is a sack machine.
More on 3rd and 8. Pressure and they get to him. He is sacked by the best in the biz, David Bailey. 14 and a half sacks now on the season. On this possession, but a huge smack in the backfield again. It's David Bailey walloping Jamarian Burnett.
Work on an empty here, 3rd down and 9. Kansas State, oh goodness Rams, look out. David Bailey, the sack leader in the nation, gets home again.
Cam Pickett is much healthier now and running better, and you see it there.
Oh, good night. David Bailey in a heartbeat. He graduated from Stanford in under 4 years, and he runs like this.
In the 2026 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, Arizona State.
It's Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, reacting to round one of the NFL Draft last night. Ryan Roberts, NFL Draft college football analyst for A to Z Sports, joining us here on Big 12 Radio to react with us to round one. Big day for the Big 12, Ryan. 3 top 10 picks, 6 in the first round overall. I guess off the top, just give us kind of your overall thoughts on the first round.
Yeah, I mean, it was chaos, and we kind of thought it was going to be a little bit of chaos kind of going in. I think we talked about it last time I was on the show, but there was just not a lot of consensus after the first couple picks in terms of we knew kind of what the first 2 to 3 picks probably would be. But then after that, it was just pick your flavor, basically, in a class that doesn't have a lot of top-end talent. It's more about the depth into, late first round into second round. So it was a little bit of just organized chaos, for lack of a better word. And we saw a few trades, but we saw some team player fits that maybe we haven't really even kind of talked about much leading up to the event. But as always, it's entertaining, which is, obviously what we love to see on the first night of the draft. But it's going to be really interesting to see how things kind of play out, because teams' boards, as the media's boards are, the draft Twitter's boards, everybody's boards were very different this year. So it just kind of made for a little bit of fun on the first night, I think.
All right, so those teams that took guys that maybe weren't on anybody's radar, like in terms of fit, who are the guys you're talking about, and is Jordan Tyson one of them going to the Saints?
No, Tyson's actually one that I thought made a lot of sense. I actually thought when the Chiefs were announced to trade up that at 6 they might do it, but obviously they needed to prioritize defense with the defections they had. But I think Tyson, as long as he's healthy, is a top 10 player in this class, and it seems that seeing him run routes at his de facto pro day after the fact, I think did kind of calm some people's nerves. And as I reported right at the combine, his medicals did come back in a good spot. So clearly teams were excited about him. And I think that we kind of saw that late rise to quote unquote into the top 10, which he was probably always going to go as long as everything checked out. And I think that you're talking about the Cleveland Browns at number 9 were another team that maybe could have taken a Jordan Tyson if he would have fallen there as well. So Tyson wasn't the shock, really. The shock, I don't even know if I would call it a shock, but Cornell Tate to the Titans at number 4 was a little bit surprising based upon like Arvell Reese being on the board. But the 3 biggest by far were 13, I believe it was the Rams pick when they took Ty Simpson, the quarterback out of Alabama. Everything the Rams have done this offense is very 2026 oriented. Like it's like boom or bust. Let's go win a championship. And then you draft a guy that's probably not going to help you and is going to be a backup quarterback for you in 2026. Just kind of a little bit of a strange one there. And then you had Caleb Banks to Minnesota at 18. Not that Caleb Banks talent-wise isn't good enough to be the 18th pick. He absolutely is. But it's with the injury concerns, and I just frankly thought he was going to fall out of the first round. So that was a little bit of an odd one. And there was one more that I had wanted to mention real quick. It was Jadarian Price, the pick to the Seahawks. I understand that running back at 32 is a big need for Seattle, but I just didn't think, and this is a guy that actually is a Notre Dame fan, like I just didn't think Jadarian Price was a true first-round prospect. So a few funky ones there, but I really do think that the interesting part of the draft got started off when the Cardinals decided to stick and pick with Jeremiah Love, and then the Titans decided to go wide receiver over Arvell Reese at 4.
Who are guys that you thought would be first-round picks that did not?
Well, I mean, the Jamal McCoy stuff obviously came out late in terms of, some teams being not comfortable with his medicals, others being okay with it. So I thought he would still probably sneak into the back in the first round after falling a little bit, but he's still available after day one. His teammate Colton Hood is another talented cornerback that's available after day one. So we'll probably see both those guys off the board pretty early. And then the interior offensive line board didn't come off the way I thought it was going to. I thought Chase Basantis out of Texas A&M was probably going to come off, and then potentially Emmanuel Pregnon at the end of the first round out of Oregon as well. So the interior offensive line run didn't quite start. Didn't start the way I thought it was going to, and then I thought two of those corners might potentially go in the back end, so they'll be available early on day two.
In terms of Ahanichor, his fit, Malachi Lawrence, his fit, and then David Bailey, obviously, at number 2, and Fano. Just how do you feel about, you mentioned Tyson, but the other Big 12 guys taken and their destinations?
Yeah, and Max Ahanichor was a really interesting one at 21 to Pittsburgh, because clearly that tells you that they're not comfortable with where Broderick Jones is coming back from his injury, and he's been very up and down as a player, and mostly down over the last couple of years. So I think clearly there's going to be an intentionality to strengthen offensive tackle, but it's going to be an interesting one because obviously Max was a right tackle at Arizona State the last couple of years. That's the position he knows. And Pittsburgh, you would say, has a bigger need right now at left tackle. So clearly he's a player that they think can make that move athletically. I think he can too with the length and athleticism. So we'll see how early he can entrench himself into that battle. It'll be very interesting to see. I think the Malachi Lawrence pick I like in a vacuum in terms of, and I was talking about this before we went on air, but like Malachi Lawrence is a really toolsy pass rusher whose upside is tremendous, and I am always a fan for the most part. You pick and choose your spots at times, but I'm typically a fan of betting on traits on the edge because I think that traits on the edge matter so much. So I really do think that it is a gamble in the 20s at 23 to the Dallas Cowboys, but they have a huge edge need. They need guys like Donovan Ezeraku to take a step forward in year 2 as well. But like, you're going to need Malachi Lawrence at least to prepare to give you some pass rush juice in year 1. And obviously he has the talent to do so. It's just going to be the question of like how fundamentally he comes along from a technical perspective, continuing that power. So I'm interested in seeing just kind of the early return on the pick, but I think the long-term could be pretty fun. You mentioned another one that's like an interesting one, similar to Ahanichor, but like Spencer Fano, who I know started at left tackle as a true freshman at Utah in 2023. So left tackle is not necessarily foreign to him, but we know that Cleveland has a massive need at left tackle. Like the right tackle spot is in a solid spot with Titus Howard. You rebuilt your interior offensive line this offseason. You need to find a left tackle. So clearly they believe, and we'll see if they're right or wrong, they believe that Spencer Fano can come in and be a left tackle in the NFL despite not playing there over the last couple seasons. I think he has the athletic traits to do so, but he's also a player that some teams viewed as an interior offensive lineman. Some liked him as a center, some liked him as a guard, some liked him as a right tackle. So the opinions on him were a little bit all over the place, and we're going to see how well he can lock down the blind side probably immediately. And then David Bailey, it was always going to be, and I think we talked about this last time I was on, like it was always going to be Bailey or Reese or Bailey. Like that was going to be the number 2 pick for the Jets. It had kind of gone back and forth early. It was Arvell Reese, then it flipped to Bailey, then it flipped back to Reese, and then obviously Bailey ends up being the pick. The Jets are clearly looking for the guy that's a more proven commodity for what they need as a player. Arvell Reese is incredibly versatile, but there are some question marks in terms of what his best fit is schematically. You know what David Bailey is. David Bailey is a pin your ears back, get after the quarterback. I am interested to see how he does in terms of mixing and matching with Will McDonald because they do have somewhat similar skill sets, so hopefully there's not redundancy there. But I think clearly they wanted a guy that can get after the quarterback, and David Bailey, as we saw in 2025 with Texas Tech, he's a guy that can certainly do that.
Yeah, I'm with you on Lawrence. Felt like a reach. Love Lawrence the player, but, again, we'll see. And then curious for your thoughts on the Patriots basically taking left tackles in back-to-back seasons. Campbell did not have a great rookie year, especially in the playoffs. And Lomu's, as you mentioned, Fano played left tackle, then moved to right tackle for Lomu. And I believe the Patriots said after the draft that Campbell's left tackle and Lomu will play right tackle. But that's an interesting transition for a guy that's played left tackle. And again, 2 back-to-back left tackles in the first round for New England.
Yeah, it's interesting. Me and my co-host Joe DeLeon at Best Pod Available, we were talking about this after the fact because no matter what happens, if Caleb Lomu starts at right tackle in 2026 or is the swing developmental guy behind Morgan Moses and Will Campbell to kind of strengthen and then be the heir apparent in 2027, whatever ends up being the strategy with Lomu, the minute that Will Campbell has a bad game, you know that fans are coming.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw how loud it was during the playoffs and down the stretch of the season. Like, Will Campbell, when he's compromised, which he was banged up down the stretch, the length issues show up like it does. When you don't have as much foot quickness as you usually do, that margin for error gets smaller and smaller. And I do think there are some question marks in terms of if he is a true left tackle for the long term at a high level. And now that Lomu's on the team, there's going to be screams from the Raptors. Even if people don't know if Lomu is a legit stud or at least a plus starter in the NFL at left tackle, the fans are going to come for it. Like, they're going to be screaming for it. So I'm interested to see just how that dynamic works. I like Lomu, the football player. I think he's a little bit more developmental, which actually I think this fit makes a whole lot of sense for him because the talent is clearly there. He's got length. He's got athleticism. He's a little raw, and he still needs to get stronger, which is totally fine. You're a late 20s pick. I do think that his upside is tremendous, but with the fact that you do have Campbell and Morgan Moses for the short term, the optimistic view for this fit is you don't have to throw him into the fire right away. You can let him develop physically, get stronger, develop the technique, work with his offensive line coach. I think the future is very bright for Caleb Lomu, but certainly there is going to be an interesting conversation that eventually happens in terms of, is he a left tackle? Is he a right tackle? What does he end up doing in terms of his role long term?
Ryan, which NFL team you think had the best night?
Man, it's kind of weird, but like I thought the Cleveland Browns had a pretty good night, which is
alarming.
It's so strange to me. Usually they're one of the teams that you're kind of like, yep, that was a loser of the draft, but I really think that Fano, again, like the questions of if he's a left tackle or not, whatever. All I know is he's a good player. So you got a good player at 9, which is again not something that the Cleveland Browns always do well, of just taking good football players. And then you came back and you got Casey Concepcion at 24 and you didn't have to move for him. And I'm just like, okay, that's a guy you need. Like, you don't have a guy that can make a difference after the catch. You do not have a guy that can really take the top off. You just don't have enough dynamic ability on offense in general, and that includes running backs. That includes everybody. I mean, their tight end's a good player, obviously, from last year, but I really do think that they needed an answer, and I thought that they found an answer, obviously, in that type of player. So I think that they had a really good night overall. I thought that the Kansas City Chiefs as well, I guess it's unfair a little bit to some others, but, you know, they had multiple first-round picks. Going up to get Mansour Delane, but keeping your late 20s pick, I think that was great. Like, I know that they didn't want to trade 29. They ended up moving up a couple spots to get Mansour Delane, who they thought was the best corner in the draft, obviously. And then you take a little bit of a gamble, but at 29, I don't think anybody's going to say a word about betting on the talent that Peter Woods, the defensive tackle out of Clemson, still has, right? So I think the fact that you were able to keep one of your first-round picks and move up and also come out of the draft with Mansour Delane and Peter Woods, the defense needed to be upgraded, and I think that the Chiefs added a lot of talent to that room.
The last one for me, you know, obviously this thing is cyclical, but by my count, there's 3 players in the Big 12 in the top 10, 1 from the Southeastern Conference. Big picture, does this mean anything to you, or is it just, you know, kind of the way it worked this year and you know, no big picture takeaways?
Well, I would say that I don't think it's necessarily like a trend, quote unquote, but I will say that I think it's a good like macro view of where college football is going and has been going now for a couple years with just the NIL and transfer portal the way it is. Like, talent is getting dispersed more evenly. So there's going to be some years where the SEC dominates in the top 10 because, to your point, can be cyclical, but then there's going to be other years like this. Like, I don't think this is a one-off, just weird year that's never going to happen again. Like, I think that we're going to see more and more of these years where it's like the Big Ten dominate the top 10 one year, then it's the SEC, then it's really evenly dispersed, then it goes back and forth. So it is cyclical, to your point. But I think the larger point is that I do think this is now the norm in college football. This is what we're seeing. The fact that the Big 12 has success in the top 10, the fact that the SEC has a down year in the first round overall. I think that this is the new normal in college football right now in college development.
Great stuff. Appreciate you waking up early with us, man. Ryan Roberts does amazing work for A to Z Sports. Follow him on social, NFL Draft, college football analyst. Ryan, appreciate you very much, brother. Be well. Take care and enjoy the rest of the draft.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for your time, too. Appreciate it.
Ryan Roberts joining us here on Big 12 Radio, recapping the first round, some of his thoughts as we head into the second round. All right, let's do a deep dive, round one, and go in depth on these picks from the Big 12 and the fit for all of them. Plus, we'll hear what they had to say, what coaches and analysts had to say about each of these picks. That's next, along with James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Jordan Tyson. He found Tyson. Airborne. Got it.
Get downhill fairly quickly.
And big shoes to fill with Cam Scatterbo now in the NFL. Looking for the corner and the catch. Touchdown, ASU. Malik Brown takes his turn. Off play action. Levitt's playing Frogger back there. Oh, he found Tyson. Airborne. Got it. Outrageous.
That's been outstanding time from that college's defense. Levitt throws a laser. It's caught. It's Tyson. It's touchdown.
Responds. Another fourth down forthcoming.
Touchdown. Touchdown. Tyson!
Sam Levitt back at the switch. They motion out of the pistol. Play fake. Going vertical. Tyson the target. Contested catch through two. One of the best in college football. Gets the night started in Tempe. ASU offsides. It worked until it didn't. Now, on a little end around, give into the end zone. Tyson touchdown.
pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select David Bailey, linebacker, Texas Tech.
Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, giving you our reaction to day one of the NFL Draft. A huge day for the Big 12 Conference. 6 Big 12 players come off the board, most drafted by teams from Big 12 rosters since 2011. Now, 2023 doesn't count in my eyes because that includes Texas and Oklahoma, so yeah, 2011. And then for most top 10 picks since 2012. The Big 12 had 3 top 10 picks. The SEC had 1. So as much as we hear about how good the SEC is underperforming both in the college football playoff and now in the draft in terms of developing and getting guys drafted. They did have a huge surprise at 13 with Ty Simpson going. But, James, I mean, I think that's such a huge story. 1 SEC player in the top 10, 3 out of the Big 12, and this on the heels of how many playoff teams did they just have? And they got 0 of those 5 to the semifinals. It's multiple years in a row where they haven't had a national champion or even a semifinalist. So, I mean, it's pretty wild in terms of just how down the SEC is. And this is not just a one-year thing. This is cumulative now. And look, the SEC is still going to get a ton of talent, but they just can't pump their chests and say they're as good as they are when the proof is not really there.
Exactly. And I think it's less of a big deal if it wasn't paired with how many teams got in the college football playoff and the lack of wins. When you put those two things together, it's a much bigger story. And that's exactly what's happened in the last 12 months when you look at college football and these conferences and you break them down. And so if you're a 4-star or a 5-star kid and your goal is to play in the NFL on Sundays, this tells me, well, you might want to think about elsewhere outside of the SEC because they're not developing players at the degree of their star ranking coming out of high school when it comes to churning out NFL talent. And the Big 12 and the Big 10 and even the ACC have shown that they're doing that at a much higher clip than the SEC. So it is a big deal in my eyes, too.
All right, let's do a deep dive on each of these first-round picks for the Big 12 and kind of their fits. So David Bailey is the first Big 12 player off the board at number 2. The second highest pick of all time for Texas Tech. They did have a first overall pick. Obviously, Tyree Wilson in 2023 was number 3. So Bailey, there was a bit of drama there, whether it be Bailey or Arvell Reese. But head coach of the Jets, Aaron Glenn, said that the 6'4", 255-pound frame with 34-inch arms and elite production made the decision clear. Quote, he fits us better when it comes to he's a 6'4", 255-pound man with 34-inch arms that has a ton of production in college, end quote.
Yeah, as bad as the Jets were, and they're coming off a 3-14 season, as bad as they were offensively, they were just as bad on the defensive side of the football. And Coach Aaron Glenn has made it his mission to completely remake that defense. The Jets generated only 26 sacks and 0 interceptions last season. So David Bailey has one job, and his job is to get after the quarterback. And nobody in college football, nobody on anybody's board does that better than David Bailey. So I love the fit, just in terms of David Bailey has a very specific thing that he's being brought in to do, and it's what he does best, pressure the quarterback.
Here's what David Bailey said following hearing his name called.
I mean, it's surreal to me, man. This is a great experience. This is an awesome opportunity, and I'm just so grateful, man. Shout out all the fans that came out here. I'm just happy to be here.
And then here is how he will help the Jets.
Man, I just want to get in there and just be a sponge, just soak up everything, just, rely on the vets, rely on the staff to make me the best player I can and, help out this organization, man. I feel like this organization is trending in the right way, so, man, I'm just ready to work.
It remains to be seen if it is trending in the right way, but Bailey's certainly the right pick to be trending in the right way. He's going to be a beast on defense. Here's what Louis Riddick said Jets fans can expect from David Bailey.
Yeah, I do, simply because of this. Look, offenses hunt for explosive plays, right? Every offensive coordinator wants to be able to win a game with a guy who can win it on one play. On defense, how do you win games on one play? Either you turn it over or you put a quarterback on its back. Nobody put the quarterback on their back better than David Bailey. So that's where they figure that's a great place to start. Let's get the best pass rusher in the NFL, or rather in college football last year. We project he'll be able to do that in the NFL. He has to earn the right to rush the passer. He's got to take care of person second down. And we've seen with those long arms that he has, he's more than capable of setting the edge. And they're going to demand that so he can then go ahead and do what he does best, which is win games by putting quarterbacks down.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of analysis around him was sort of one-dimensional in terms of, like, he's not a one-dimensional player, but a lot of people felt like, oh, he's not as good against the run. I disagree. He's really good at setting the edge. I think he's a multifaceted defensive end, and I think this is a great pick by the Jets. All right, Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, comes off the board, 8th to New Orleans. James, what do you think of this pick?
Yeah, I like it. You know, the Saints are coached by Kellen Moore, and a quarterback's best friend is a dynamic wide receiver, and he knows that position. He knows exactly what he needed to pair with their young quarterback and to give them some new energy and a new weapon. And the Saints have had a long history of churning out really successful NFL wide receivers. He's the most polished route runner. I think he's going to be a star right away. You know, he's got his brother who plays for the Cavs. Like, they know what it takes to be a pro and be successful. So all the work that they put in outside of the facility and outside of what they do in the film room and practice is just like one more kind of intangible that Tyson brings to the table.
Yeah, and look, I mean, you and I both weren't really big on Tyler Shuck in the draft last year, but he had a pretty good year. He didn't play the entire season, but there's a lot of optimism around him. And with Shuck and then Olave on one side, I think this is a really good spot for him. He also went viral, Tyson did, because as he walked on stage, he was clearly crying. He dropped to one knee and then hugged Commissioner Goodell, so he was extremely emotional, obviously. And here's what he said when asked about that emotion.
Just so thankful, so blessed. The Lord's doing work on me. He's not done. We're just going to keep this thing rolling. I'm going to give it my all, and that's all I can do.
All right, and here's what Tyson said about fighting through adversity.
The Lord said it's going to be hard, and you have to persevere. Life is not easy. Keep going, boy. You got it. You strong. I promise you, you're so strong. Just keep going. You got it.
So Jordan Tyson, 8th to New Orleans, and then the next pick, 9th, Spencer Fano goes to the Browns. Cleveland allowed 51 sacks in 2025, and so obviously they needed somebody to shore up the tackle position. There was some talk about Spencer Fano's short arms and would that kick him inside, but Todd Monken, the Cleveland Browns head coach, confirmed he would be playing left tackle.
Yeah, and just the two biggest draft winners last night may have been Tyler Shook, who finished second, runner-up in the Offensive Rookie of the Year voting, even though he only played in 9 games, and then Shedeur Sanders. Like, Shedeur finally has somebody now to protect his blind side. 51 sacks is just a ridiculous number, similar to what he saw at Colorado. They're going to play Fano at left tackle. Fano said he trained at every position leading up to the draft in case different teams needed different things. Cleveland traded down from 6 to 9, picked up some extra picks, so a slam dunk move by the Browns to not only get their guy, but to be able to trade back and acquire some picks to do it.
Yeah, here's what Fano said about his pre-draft process in Cleveland.
I'm just so excited to get to work, man. I'm so excited to get to work, and I'm so grateful for everybody there believing in me. My pre-draft process with the Browns, I feel like, has been really special. I mean, I drove there straight from Indy, straight from the combine, and I was the first person in there. So I feel like that alone told me how much how they viewed me, and I feel really, really blessed. I'm so excited to be able to play for Coach Monken and get to work.
Here's what the aforementioned Coach Monken said about Fano.
Really high floor. I think he could play guard. I think he could play center. And I think he's going to be an outstanding left tackle. Yeah. So that versatility and just how he's wired. I mean, the more you play players like that young man, the better off you're going to be. I mean, there's nothing about him that screams bust. Not at all. I mean, what screams is a player you're going to have here for 10 years. It's nice to have versatility. Much harder to find tackles, as we know. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is. It's hard to find tackles in the draft. Do I think players get comfortable on the left side or the right side? Of course. I think he'll be just fine on the left side.
All right. That's, of course, Todd Monken, talking about the left tackle, 9th overall pick in Spencer Fano. All right, getting outside now, the top 10, the 3 that went inside the top 10. How about the first round? Max Ahanachour goes 21st to the Steelers. This was interesting because reportedly the Steelers had Mekhi Lemon on the phone saying that they were going to draft him. And in that moment, the Eagles traded up in front of them to draft him. And one Steelers insider basically said, it's sort of like in fantasy football when you've got a guy you're about to draft and then he goes and then you don't know what to do. So auto draft immediately takes the best player available at that point. Look, I like the fit here a lot, especially because Broderick Jones suffered a neck injury last season and has reportedly experienced a setback this offseason. So I think this was a very good pick by the Steelers, but it was sort of funny that they were set to take Mekhi Lemon only for the in-state Philadelphia Eagles to trade with the Cowboys and jump in front of them to take him.
Well, and that's what makes fantasy football so addicting, right? It's just that high of what do you do next? And the NFL draft is a lot like that. Like you get these war room cameras and you see that stuff all the time. You know, Mike McCarthy's super excited about him, said he's a stud of a young man. I just love his potential. And with the Jones neck injury, they had gaping holes at left guard and left tackle. And Ahanachour was an absolute monster on the left side of that Arizona State offensive line. I think he's versatile. Just his story, his background, growing up playing soccer, playing basketball, didn't try football until like his senior year of high school, goes to a JUCO. He's going to be a stud.
Malachi Lawrence goes 23rd to Dallas. The Cowboys are hoping this ends up with another Lawrence they drafted early. What I guess was surprising to me was he was clearly defensive end 3, so the third best edge rusher in this draft. And sort of interesting, Dimitri Brim was a defensive analyst at his alma mater last year, UCF, and now he is an assistant defensive line coach for the Cowboys. So I'm sure he was somewhat influential in helping Malachi Lawrence get delivered to Dallas. But I think he's a really good fit in what Christian Parker wants to do with that multiple look 3-4 scheme. He's a guy that can rush standing up or with his hand on the ground, very hybrid, functional. The athleticism obviously is off the charts. So, I thought maybe he could be available in the second round. Glad he didn't, end up in the second round. I like this pick a lot for the Cowboys.
Yeah, the last mock draft that I saw right before had the Cowboys taking him at 20, and they trade back to get him at 23. With the Micah Parsons trade, they had a massive hole. Like they were dead last in scoring defense last year in the NFL. They gave up 30 points per game. The only team in the NFL to allow 30 or more to get Caleb Downs and then Lawrence. I love that duo, both versatile guys that can go sideline to sideline with Lawrence and all of his measurables. Again, he's a guy that's a risk to a certain degree, but also could be a huge reward just in terms of his potential.
Caleb Lomuth, 28th to the Patriots, the 6th and final pick for the Big 12 out of the first round. Again, second consecutive year for the Patriots to be taking a left tackle, especially a guy like Lomu who kicked Fano back to right tackle so he could play left tackle. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what they do. The Patriots said that Lomu will play right tackle and confirmed Campbell will play left tackle, so I guess they see the transition there. But the Patriots were ecstatic about the pick. Here's what their VP of Player Personnel, Elliot Page, said about Caleb Lomu.
We drafted Caleb Lomu from Utah, traded up 3 spots, and gave up a 4th-round pick to acquire him. Really excited about this player. He's young, he's experienced, he's athletic, he's a great kid, and frankly, I was a little surprised that he was still available.
Well, their starting right tackle is a 35-year-old Morgan Moses, right? So this could be like a redshirt year for Lomu, who develops and then is the starter next year, or he could be a guy that takes over midseason. Either way, he's going to be a massive piece of that offensive line, and really cool to see Utah bookend the draft when it comes to the offensive lineman.
Yeah, great point. All right, best player available. Let's talk second round and preview what we should see tonight and the rest of the draft. I think a lot of Big 12 players are going to come off the board quickly here, round 2 tonight. We'll get to that next with James. I'm Ari. This is a full-on NFL draft coverage because the Big 12 is killing it, the 2026 NFL draft. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Wildcat quarterback. He fakes it to Dan Campbell. 45 yards of penalties on this drive alone. And that's going to lead to a touchdown. They fake the jet sweep. Dan here finds some room. And he's got a first down with that great hesitation done from the Utah side. 2nd and 6. And a keeper. That is Ficklin and Bert Ficklin.
In the 2026 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Spencer Fano, tackle, Utah.
It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. Of course, you can always check out the Big 12 Today podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be through the TuneIn app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn On Demand, all the places you can get us. And right now, you should check out the Mark of a Fighter podcast featuring James Westling. There's one with me as well. Just going through our experiences in this business, a little behind the curtain between the two of us of where we came from and how we got here. And you might find it enlightening, interesting, a different look and viewpoint of us that we don't normally share on this show, Monday through Friday from 7 to 10 a.m. But check it out, Mark of a Fighter, of course, powered by Modelo on TuneIn On Demand and wherever you get your podcasts.
We go BTS. We go behind the scenes.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely, we do.
I'd like to do a second version, Taman, so just hit me up when you're available.
Why? What was wrong with it?
I just felt like I stumbled through a lot of answers. I'm not overthinking it. Don't worry about it.
I don't think you are. Yeah, no, you're definitely thinking about it in the right context.
Right. Like, it's all
Maybe just a part 2, just kind of like a where are we now sort of situation.
There we go. Where are we now in the last 2 months? Like a little update.
Just a quick update. Mark of a Fighter, go check it out. Just search Mark of a Fighter. All right, we've got our full court review on the way. Modelo's Big 12 basketball team recaps on Texas Tech. But let's talk a little day 2 and then preview the rest of the draft. So day 2 tonight is rounds 2 and 3, and then the rest of the draft into Saturday, tomorrow. Jacob Rodriguez was a name certainly we thought that could potentially come off the board in round 1. Same with Tredan Stukes. So those are 2 guys that I expect to hear their names called very quickly here day 2.
Yeah, once I saw like the Chiefs at pick 29 take the defensive tackle from Clemson, it was a little bit eye-opening to me just in terms of how many high productive, super talented, 5-star blue chip kids were still on the board. The cornerback from Tennessee that many thought would be taken in the top 15 is still
Tremont
sitting
McCoy,
there.
yeah.
So that's where it kind of hit me that, okay, Jacob Rodriguez and Jake Gaudet and maybe some of these other guys, Tredan Stukes was another one that we saw mocked as a first-round pick, probably aren't going to get taken in these last 2 or 3. They'll be day 2 picks. But somebody's going to get a stud at linebacker with Jacob Rodriguez. Like, I'm looking at Daniel Jeremiah's prospects, and there are Big 12 guys littered all over this list, starting with Jacob Rodriguez. Then you've got the wild card in Tredan Stukes. Then you've got Jake Gaudet, the linebacker from Cincinnati. Bud Clark, TCU. Sam Hecht, Kansas State, is probably a 2nd or 3rd round pick. Keith Abney, the speed skating champion at Arizona State. Genesis Smith. Like, there are a ton of dudes that will be taken tonight in rounds 2 and 3.
Yeah, and, you know, with Dylan Thieneman coming off the board at 25 from a safety position standpoint, like the top 3 safeties were pretty explicit, it seems, with Caleb Downs, Dylan Thieneman, and then Emmanuel McNeil-Warren from Toledo, with Stukes being the conversation. So once I think Thieneman ends up coming off the board at 25, a lot later than many expected, it kind of felt like there's no way Stukes is going to come off the board because, again, like you expected Thieneman to be a top 15 pick. So that would have maybe opened up an opportunity later in that first round for somebody to draft Stukes. And I think once Thieneman falls, you get a lot of teams that maybe wanted safety that look and say, well, we can still have him in the 2nd round. And same with Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, was another guy that was projected as a first-round pick.
Yeah, he was supposed to go in the 1st round. And all these NFL draft analysts that we've had on continue, there's a recurring theme, and it is the depth of this draft. Maybe not as strong in terms of high-level, top-end talent, but it is a super deep draft. So the guys that you're getting in the 3rd round, the gap between those prospects and the 1st-round guys is maybe as thin as it's ever been.
Yeah.
So to see so many Big 12 players taken in this 2nd and 3rd round, guys that are probably going to be expected to be starters in the NFL, is super exciting for the league. And again, just the depth overall of the draft, but also very specific to the Big 12. I can't wait to see the final numbers and evaluate where some of these Big 12 prospects rank compared to the other conferences. Like last year, the Big 12 had 31 picks. The entire draft. There was already 6 in the 1st round. So, I mean, the Big 12, I think, is pacing to crush that number.
Yeah, you think they hit the over there?
Yeah, I do. Especially when I look at how many prospects are 2nd or 3rd, and then the guys that are just outside of the top 100. Right outside of the top 100, you've got Michael Trigg, tight end Baylor. You've got Josh Cameron, wide receiver Baylor, who could actually end up being taken higher because of how many wide receivers have already been coming off the board in the 1st round. So it'll be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I expect Jacob Rodriguez, Lee Hunter, Jake Gaudet, Romello Height, Tredan Stukes to be the kind of the immediate guys to come off the board here day 2. I think those are definite 2nd-round picks there. Do you think there's anybody else I'm missing there? Stukes, Jacob Rodriguez, Lee Hunter, Romello Height.
Jake Gaudet.
Stukes and Jake Gaudet.
Jake Gaudet is the one that I would throw in the chat. I'm not sure he's a 2nd-round pick, but could be. I mean,
and maybe 3rd. So definitely a guy that comes off the board today.
Exactly. And then Caleb Elarm-Zor, we didn't bring up, the linebacker from TCU, who's ranked 134 overall, day 3 range, but could be day 2 upside, according to Mel Kiper, just based off what he did at the Combine. And that's the thing. All it takes is one team to fall in love with what a guy did at the Combine. And when you look at his numbers, they're better than any other linebacker in this draft, which is insane. He was also a tackling machine at TCU. So Dom Orange is another one from Iowa State who's ranked 119 overall. So probably a day 4, or not a day 4, a round 4 selection, but could be round 3. There's a ton of prospects. I mean, we just rattled off, like 10 guys right there that could be taken in the second or third round. I mean, that says a lot about the league.
Yeah, no, well said. I mean, and there's probably guys we aren't naming that could potentially come off the board in the second round. Again, just based on some of the NFL evaluations, I do think that there was maybe some surprise with certainly some of these guys that did not come off the board in round 1. But like Ty Simpson being evaluated by an NFL team as a first-round pick. I think a few other guys. Jermod McCoy not being a first-round pick. What does that say about the cornerback position overall in this draft? You had Chris Johnson from San Diego State come off the board. A couple others that are escaping me. So, what do you think is the position of greatest depth out of the Big 12 right now? Is it linebacker?
By the way, we just listed 11 guys. 11 Big 12 players that could be taken in the second round or third round.
Yeah.
Most depth. That's a good question. I would say, in terms of guys that'll be taken tonight, I would go defensive side of the football. Probably that linebacker or secondary spot. Like when you think about Gaudet, when you think about Jacob Rodriguez at linebacker, when you think about Elarm Zor at linebacker, if Romello Height happens to get taken, he would be kind of an edge rusher, hybrid type guy that can play a little bit of linebacker if you want. And then the secondary with Tredan Stukes and Bud Clark, I do think, comes off the board. He's ranked as number 47 on NFL.com, Jeremiah's list. The offensive linemen outside of Sam Hecht, there's not a lot of guys left because so many from the Big 12 were taken in the first round. So with Abney at Arizona State, I'd probably go linebacker or secondary now.
Yeah, secondary is the one that stands out to me. Just think about Arizona. They've got 3 guys, Genesis Smith, Dalton Johnson, and Tredan Stukes. Bud Clark at TCU is a guy that will certainly come off the board. And then Keith Abney, I'm missing. I think in terms of just depth from a positional group, that's certainly it is corner or safety for the Big 12.
Yeah, and there was only one tight end taken in the first round. So now you've got, what does that position look like? Does Michael Trigg get drafted in the third round? Is that like a market inefficiency that some teams look to target with so many wide receivers coming off the board in the first round? That maybe like with Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana, he went higher than his projection with 2 running backs coming off the board in the first round. By the way, it's the first time that 2 running backs from the same school were drafted in the first round. You want to take a guess at what year that was before?
Well, I know who it is. It's Auburn with Cadillac Williams and the other guy.
Ronnie Brown.
Ronnie Brown, thank you.
It actually is not that year. You're right in that those were 2 running backs taken in the first round.
There's been one more recently?
There's been one more recently. The one you're thinking of was like 04. I'll give you a little hint. This was 08. Taman?
Dallas Cowboys, Felix Jones,
Memphis.
and Darren McFadden with the Raiders.
2008, Darren McFadden and Felix Jones from Arkansas back in 08.
Didn't Memphis have 2 first-round picks, though, with Tony Pollard? Or was Pollard not a first-round pick?
No, he was like a 4th-round pick.
Got it, okay. That was a year where 2 running backs for Memphis came off the board, but not in the same first round.
Yeah.
Man, Felix Jones and Darren McFadden, what a terrible – then you look at Auburn, too, same thing. Those were not good players.
They were so good in college, though.
Yeah.
Like those Arkansas running backs, I loved those Arkansas teams because McFadden and Jones, we had not seen that until that point in time. Both 1,000-yard rushers, really spread offenses, and it stemmed from really the founding father of that era was Rich Rod and what he did with all of his different running backs and Slayton and Pat White. Arkansas kind of had that same mold back in 08 with Jones and McFadden.
Yeah. I thought, it's funny. Arizona, the Cardinals seem to be the most underrated, putrid franchise in the NFL. Everybody makes fun of the Jets, and rightfully so, and the Browns, again. Arizona, man, they're just awful, constantly drafting the top 5. And Love was the best running back in this draft. I don't think he's anything special. He's not a Saquon Barkley to me. He may not even be a Zeke Elliott to me. I thought that was a huge reach at 3 to take him that high. It's it's an important position, but you instantly Love becomes one of the highest paid running backs in the NFL, whereas Mendoza's like top 15 for quarterbacks being paid, being number 1 overall. It's just wild.
And running backs being drafted that high historically has not panned out. It has not worked out well. So just that fact alone, I would never draft a running back that high. I would,
unless he's like special, Saquon Barkley. Like, that's a guy that, all right, I mean, if he's been able to play for a decade and be a high-level producer, sure, but...
Where was he drafted?
Barkley?
Yeah.
2?
He was 2 overall? Okay.
To the Giants. Did not have a great year last year, but before that, I mean, 2 years ago with the Eagles won the Super Bowl, he was the best player in the league.
Yeah, no, he was insane. Like, I'm just trying to think. Trent Richardson stands out, the Alabama running back. He was taken 3rd. What's Bijan Robinson doing these days?
Yeah, he's good. That was a good pick.
He was drafted like 6th. Ashton Jeanty. I still think Jeanty can be a really good back, but like 3.5 yards per carry isn't going to cut it. I know he was on a really bad team, so this is a big year for him. But, yeah, I didn't realize how bad the Cardinals have been as of late. Like, they were in the playoffs in 2021, but since then they've gone 4-13, 4-13, 3-14. They had 1 8-9 season. They trade Murray. Like, yeah, you're right. They are a mess.
They're a mess. All right, Big 12 today, Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. We've got more to come on the draft, but let's do our full court review. Modelo's Big 12 basketball team recaps centered on Texas Tech next. Then we've got Jeff Haxton around the corner. This is Big 12 today. Big 12 Radio presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
And Sims will keep it. Nice decision there to get deeper into Utah territory.
What a great individual effort.
On 3rd and long, he got 20. Brown now carries. Ihanachur was leading the way. Then the ball came out at the end of that. Seconds ticking away. Sims in the pocket. He's going to throw short, and that's Brown.
It's been dismal so far for the Sun Devils. That has to feel good.
Your
It's Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, along with James Westling. I am Ari Tepkin. It is time now for our full court review, Modelo's Big 12 basketball team recap. We're going through each and every Big 12 basketball team and recapping their season, taking a look at 2027 and a advanced preview of it. Plus, Jeff Haxton, the voice of Texas Tech Hoops, joins us coming up in about 20 minutes from now. We are on the fourth team in the Big 12, team number 4. We did Kansas yesterday, who finished third, just for the record. Kansas finished third. Texas Tech finished fourth, even though we're counting up from 16 to 1. What stands out to you about Texas Tech in this season?
All the injuries. That was the story for Texas Tech. JT Toppin tears his ACL with 6 minutes to go at Arizona State. That happened on February 17th. Texas Tech was riding a 3-game winning streak going into that contest. They had just won at Arizona, 78-75, and on that road swing in the desert, they lose to Arizona State. Now, initially, they bounced back nicely. They won 3 in a row post JT Toppin injury, but then they lost 3 of their final 4 games. The injuries just caught up to them. Christian Anderson tweaks his groin in Kansas City in the Big 12 tournament. Remember, they lost their last 2 regular season games to TCU at home, and then they lost to BYU by 6 on the road. And then in Kansas City in the Big 12 tournament, they got decimated by Iowa State, 75-53. They win their first game of the NCAA tournament, and then they get pounded again by Alabama, 90-65. For me, Texas Tech, when JT Toppin was healthy, they were a Final Four caliber team. They were playing that well on both sides of the ball. They were shooting the cover off the ball. They were a well-oiled machine offensively. Without Toppin, their centerpiece, everything fell apart.
Yeah. I mean, this was in many ways a historic year for Texas Tech fans, or for Texas Tech basketball, and I'm sure fans don't want to hear that because it did end in disappointment, but I think the context is important in terms of Anderson and JT Toppin. But, I mean, they set a record for made three-pointers during a regular season, 384. Donovan Atwell had the single-season record for made three-pointers with 130. They had 4 top 10 wins. 4 top 10 wins. It's the first time in Texas Tech basketball history that they were ranked in the preseason AP poll and did not leave the top 25 the entire season. So, yeah, I mean, it's in many ways high highs and some low lows, but, you know, it wasn't a disappointment from the standpoint of, you know, they were eliminated in a way that they shouldn't have been because they just ran out of gas at the team that had injuries. I mean, that at the bottom line, that's it. Just a very – JT Toppin was on his way to becoming a back-to-back Big 12 Player of the Year, and he tears his ACL. And then, as you mentioned, I mean, it's all on Anderson. They're not going to be a Final Four team without Toppin anyways, but I mean the Anderson injury was the last salvo, if you will.
And back-to-back seasons where injuries were really the story because they had Florida, the eventual national champs, on the ropes in the Elite Eight. They'd kind of limped into the NCAA tournament with the injuries to McMillan and Darion Williams. And for the first time in program history, they have 2 All-Americans on the same roster. Christian Anderson sets a new Texas Tech record with assists, 7.5 per game. But when you think about his game, you think about him more as a scorer because he averaged 19 per contest and led the team with 108 threes. Donovan Atwell, who was a transfer from UNC Greensboro and was actually better at Texas Tech than he was at his last school, which was a mid-major. That says a lot about Grant McCasland's ability to identify talent and develop. He set a program record with 130 made threes, 46% from deep. But they didn't have rebounding. They didn't have a post presence offensively that could lead to those open threes because JT Toppin is such an underrated passer that when teams would suck in with a double team, he would find the open guy. And Luke Bamboye just wasn't that type of player for Texas Tech. So they missed him sorely, and it was a kind of a disappointing finish, but circumstances completely outside of their control.
Yeah. Look, and Grant McCasland becomes the first Tech coach to make 3 consecutive NCAA tournaments in their first 3 seasons. He's also the first coach since Bobby Knight and one of only 2 coaches to have at least 20 win seasons in their first 3 years. By the way, Texas Tech has made the tournament 8 out of the last 10 years. So, you know, for a program that rarely made the tournament and then had some issues with hiring the right coaches, they've been as consistent as it gets. And, you know, McCasland, he's, for my money, one of the best coaches in college basketball. I think the biggest weakness was the defense. You mentioned this with Bamboye and some of the injuries they had. I mean, the offense was so good, but even with the injuries, to finish 34th in Ken Palm defense, probably not good enough. But a team that I think moving into next year will be better positioned to be better offensively and defensively.
Yeah, next year is fascinating when you look at Texas Tech. I guess, are we assuming that JT Toppin is coming back? I mean, the ACL tear happening in mid to late February, he's probably not going to be ready to go by the start of the year. And then Christian Anderson departing is probably the biggest shocker. He declares for the NBA draft and then says that he's entering the portal while he goes through the draft process. There's rumors that like Duke and Kentucky are just offering him insane money, which he's an elite talent. So it's almost kind of a rebuild for Texas Tech. But Grant McCasland has shown that even overhauling a large chunk of their roster, he finds the right guys. And the guards that they have coming in are absolute beasts, like dynamic scores. They can shoot, they can get to the rim. So Texas Tech's going to look very different next year. But like if JT Toppin is coming back and you get him in, let's say, January, like the start of conference play, everything they do in the non-conference, you just throw out the window because he's that important.
Texas Tech, their roster next year, I mean, you mentioned JT Toppin most likely back. Now, if he is back, he, with the ACL injury, would expect it to be returning by December maybe January. We'll see. Josiah Mosley, Luke Bamboye are two other names that are expected to return. And then you look at who they have coming in. Cruz Davis is a guy we talked about, the former Hofstra guard, 20 points, 4.7 assists, 3.7 rebounds, and 1 steal per game. He was an absolute stud. Big-time addition. Demarion Dennis comes in from Wyoming after starting at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. He's a San Antonio native, so another Texas kid who's been really good and productive. Dakari Spear is a 4-star, 6'5" guard from Dallas who played at Dynamic Prep and signed with the program back in November. So a lot of talent coming in to mesh with, the returning players, and I think there's still work to be done with them in the portal.
Absolutely. I think there's work to be done in the portal. Also, a lot of these college basketball programs are waiting on this NCAA proposed rule of the eligibility because it would open up, it would be pure chaos. Like St. John's coach Rick Pitino had a comment yesterday about that. All of these teams kind of sitting and waiting for this ruling. It would open the door for guys that might be out of eligibility to play one more season. Now, one guy you mentioned is gone, Luke Bamboye.
He is gone.
He did enter the transfer portal 6 days ago. He's not coming back, which was a really big surprise to me. But Josiah Mosley is going to be a stud. Hurt most of the year. Finally gets healthy like the last month of the season and blows up. The transfer from Villanova. And then the guys they have coming in, but their roster is really thin right now. They only have 7 guys on their roster. Now, Toppin would be 8. We assume he's coming back. But Cruz Davis, Gibbs Lawhorn from UNLV, 2 guys that averaged over 20 a game. And Dennis is going to be the third guard, kind of like the Jalen Petty role, which I was surprised to see him enter the portal and commit to UCLA. But he's a West Coast kid. He's from Seattle, so maybe wanted to get back on that coast. But then Marial, the big backup center that they had.
Alkentak?
Thank you. Yeah, definitely that. He's going to be back. But I'm excited about this backcourt combo. Like, we know how good Cruz Davis is. You saw him on the biggest stage balling out in the NCAA tournament and the run that he had for Hofstra and Speedy Claxton's team. Gibbs Lawhorn slid over to point guard once UNLV's point guard got hurt for the year. And when he was starting at point guard, he scored 24 points per game. UNLV had a nice run in the NIT. He's a baller. So I don't see, like, Texas Tech, I don't see a downtick collectively, and maybe some of that's the McCasland factor. I know losing a guy like Christian Anderson, you would think maybe naturally there would be a little bit of a downtick, but I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, Alkentak is really interesting. He really didn't play or produce at all, so it was almost, a full-on redshirt year for him. Not almost. It was a redshirt year for him. So it'll be interesting to see, if he's able to contribute into this next season. And then where else they add? Like, where do you think they need to add? Because to me, it's got to be in their front court. I mean, You're right. Their back court should be pretty good, but it's the front court that has to be concerned, especially if Toppin's going to miss a few months.
Yeah, no, it's that. They've got to add rebounding They need to add size. I think the backcourt has been assembled. We know who the 3 starters are going to be on the perimeter with Davis and Gibbs, Lawhorn, and Dennis, who I saw in the NIT, played at Wyoming, and is a really crafty scorer. He reminds me so much of Jalen Petty, but they need post presence. They don't have that right now. And with the post market and the portal and what these guys are getting, maybe they're kind of waiting for some of the guys that aren't signing for $4 or $5 million. Wouldn't be surprised to see them tap into the international market. Maybe Luc Bamboye does ultimately come back, but that's the biggest glaring weakness right now is they just don't have any size. They don't have any proven post players outside of Mosley, who's 6'6", and kind of plays like Darion Williams, kind of a point forward more than a natural post player.
Right. I mean, the front court was the issue when Toppin went down, and so far they've really done nothing except for status quo to improve on that. And you're right. I mean, maybe part of this is kind of waiting for the 5-and-5 thing or what the eligibility is going to look like. Look, if I'm a school right now, I'm planning on, hey, even if they say he's not eligible, I'm going to fight this in court and try to win. And so I'm going after the most talented players I can find and then doing it, going after the fact to try to justify their ability to play. Because you just cannot count on external factors for your future. I mean, the time is now. You've got to pave your own path to figure out what your roster looks like. And I'm not saying that's what Texas Tech is doing. I'm simply saying, I know there are a lot of programs right now in sort of a holding pattern trying to figure this out. It's like, don't wait. Just go. Make moves. And then if it's invalidated by a move the NCAA makes, just sue them, and you'll most likely win.
Right. Latrell Hoover is another big that redshirted for them last year. He's 6'11", but again, these bigs are really raw. And Bamboye was raw, and I felt like would have really developed into a very solid front court player for Texas Tech. So that one was surprising to me.
It's disappointing for them to lose him because he came on, and when he got healthy. So a full year of health would have been perfect, especially from a rim protection standpoint. And the biggest thing that Tech is lacking in their front court is, consistent defender. And, again, if Toppin is out for 2 months but comes back and plays as good as we know he's capable of, they got to figure out something inside to kind of take some of the wear and tear off of him and the interior, especially when it comes to banging with those big guys.
I'm trying to think basketball players coming back from ACL injuries. Are they usually the same player they were before?
I think in a lot of cases, yes.
Okay. And Texas Tech, they have the resources. They have the medical staffs being a stone's throw from they're going to get the premium care for JT Toppin.
Yeah, and again, I mean, they need to focus on finding a guy like Bamboye. The expectation was that he would guard fives, which allows Toppin to slide to the 4 and not have to play inside because of the wear and tear that causes over the course of a season. And it just did not end up transpiring that way.
And I'm trying to see how many guys are still available in the portal. So Alan Graves from Santa Clara has not committed, 6'9", 225. Him and Momcilovic are the top 2 prospects that haven't committed in terms of frontline players. But then you've got to go down and find, here's a kid from Cal Poly who hasn't committed, but he's kind of a tweener at 6'8", 200. I'm just looking at power forwards on the 24/7 composite list. And, I mean, most of these guys have committed. Bangot Dak from Colorado just signed with the Vanderbilt. I mean, you're getting down to 2-star and 3-star territory when you look at the guys that are available.
Big 12 today, Big 12 radio. Let's check in with Jeff Haxton, the voice of Texas Tech basketball, next as we do our full court review of Texas Tech Red Raider hoops. Modelo's Big 12 basketball team recaps continue with Jeff Haxton next. With James Westling, I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Tap controlled by BYU, so the visiting Cougars have the ball first tonight. I think it was cool for you and me today to watch those former players visit the team. Watts got stopped at the rim by Queta. What a block. Queta's got 2. Ahmed now has 3. That's his 3rd foul, and he stays on the court.
Well, he's going to go, and that's why JT's going to go right at him.
He did. Yeah. Score.
I'll tell you, and that wasn't bad defense. That shot was like a meat hook.
good. Anderson had a good look.
I'll tell you, Dave, but they are tougher shots to me than he's usually seen. And that's a credit to BYU's defense.
Into the corner. Saunders 3. Got another one. See the push from BYU with Devonta on the bench and a score for Wright plus a foul. Might be his half. Rob Wright here on the road. Toppin gave it up. Anderson's going to give it right back. Toppin against Boot.
Not letting him get to that shoulder. That's great defense.
Really good D.
Yep. Great scouting report defense by Boop. Exactly what they worked on.
Crossover, right. Another basket for Rob Wright.
Without any contact.
That's where you close your eyes and picture the spacing in the NBA and what he's going to be able to do. Toppin another 3. Oh, no! Oh, my goodness.
That 95 team has to be awfully proud of what they saw tonight.
No kidding. Handshakes all around. What a night for Texas Tech.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, along with James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin. Armadillo full court review, talking Texas Tech hoops. And no better person to talk about Texas Tech hoops with than Jeff Haxton, the voice of the Texas Tech Red Raider basketball team, who we should have here in a moment. I guess we did have him. No.
We had him. We don't have him. We have him again. Now we don't have him. Now we dropped him, and now we'll add him. And he's all about Texas Tech baseball right now. This is a man who does it all. Men's basketball, baseball. He's all in on Lubbock, Texas, and the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
I was wondering if you were going to name other sports.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
But
he did a great job.
Really good at it.
I mean, he once was calling a baseball game and caught a foul ball with his bare hands.
Speared it.
It's impressive.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
That ball would have hit me right between the eyes.
I was at the Texas Rangers game last night, and Josh Young is just a beast. You know, he's had some injury history issues with the Rangers, but, I mean, he's off to a great start this year. You think about what the power that the Rangers have in the middle of their lineup. That was an impressive game last night. They've got a lot of guys that can hit with Berger and Seager and Josh Young. All right, let's talk with Jeff Haxton, the voice of Texas Tech. What's up, Hax? How are you, bud?
What's up, Ari?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Baseball.
We're going to talk a little basketball with you, though. I hope that's okay. We will ask maybe a baseball question, especially because of my Jayhawks.
No, that's okay. I understand. Got to get to check out the Rangers Yankees on Wednesday. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I was there last night. I just briefly touching on Young, who's having a great start to the season, and obviously he's had some injury issues with the Rangers, but I mean he had a couple of hits last night. I mean he's doing great this year.
Yeah, terribly slow start, and then just exploded and starting to put the ball in the gap and do what Josh does, and certainly miss him around here. And Davis Martin is pitching well for the White Sox, and Hunter Dobbins with the Cardinals. Got a lot of Red Raiders out there. It's been fun to follow those guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's talk Texas Tech hoops. You know, it's so weird, Hacks, because in some ways this season was a disappointment given, you know, how high expectations got for a team that could have certainly been a Final Four team. But it was a historic season. I mean, for 3 straight NCAA tournament appearances, first coach in Texas Tech history to do 3 in his first 3 years. He's also the first coach since Bobby Knight to get at least 20 wins in their first 3 seasons. They had more threes than any other Texas Tech team ever. But how do you sort of contrast that with the injury bug that bit them and eventually sort of undid them?
I just think we have to be very cautious as Texas Tech basketball fans who have been extremely spoiled, except for 2 or 3 seasons in the last 10 years. And so you're looking at 7 or 8 really incredible seasons. Let's just say 7. And you've done that through a span of 3 coaches, Chris Beard, Mark Adams, Graham McCasland. The overall history of Red Raider basketball is it's okay. They've had some good players. They had an incredible team that, you know, nearly went undefeated and made it to Sweet 16. That was the best team in school history until this decade. And now we've become accustomed to, you know, I won't say Final Four bust, but deeper runs into the NCAA tournament, higher finishes in conference play. So in the last 3 years, you've gone first round, Elite 8, round of 32. Now, when you figure in the fact that you had beaten Arizona at Arizona the night before JT Toppin went down with the ACL injury at Arizona State and lost that ball game, that team was primed to, again, I don't know, go after seeing the Final Four. I don't think Texas Tech was at that level, but could have gone certainly to Sweet 16, the Elite 8, and that's where they went last year. So you take out the reigning conference player of the year, the guy that was going to win the conference player of the year again, and a team that didn't have a whole lot of post presence or girth to it to begin with. What do you expect? You know?
Yeah.
You were left with a bunch of snipers and reserve posts that are now in the transfer portal that are all going to locations that are not as high as Texas Tech or anywhere in the Big 12. So you kind of say, I look back and go, man, what a fun, good season that was, even though we didn't get to experience like we did the year before by going to the Elite 8.
Yeah, I think that's well stated. I would have had Texas Tech in the Final Four pre-JT Toppin injury. I still, even when they cracked the top 10, felt like they were underrated. And I know it's kind of back-to-back years where injuries have been a thing, just some unfortunate circumstances. So can you shed some light on where JT Toppin is at? Like, is he coming back next year? Is he going to go through the rehab process? What's the timeline? Like, just what's the buzz in Lubbock?
Man, I wish I was more of an insider for you on that. I have no idea what they plan on doing with JT Toppin. You've heard rumors of 2-year deals or, him sticking around or him not coming back. I mean, I have no idea what they're going to do. It's pretty funny when you see how the basketball operations have worked through 3 different, coaches. With Mark Adams in those 2 years, everybody on that staff talked. Everybody wanted to get their opinion across. And you could know all the things that were going on. The Grant McCasland regime is much more tight-lipped and plays it a lot closer to the vest. And I have no idea what they're going to do with JT. It's an interesting situation. How long will it take? He's it was a bad injury. Would he even be ready for the start of the season? I don't know. I have no idea what they're going to do. It's a great question, though. It's fun to ponder, and when you're trying to piece together the puzzle of how the team's going to look next year, man, it's wild.
Yeah. All right.
I wish I had more information for you guys. I promise you, I don't.
Yeah. No. Understood. I guess based on what they've added already and what you know about those guys, like, give us a sense here, because it feels in a lot of ways, like, even though it's a different roster with many new players, like, the issues from last year still remain in terms of the front court. Like, they need to address that at some point, but the guard play looks to be really, really good based on what they've done.
Yeah, and I don't know much about, the kid from Hofstra, the kid from UNLV, the kid from Wyoming. I've seen all those kids play, and saw the Wyoming kid in person because we played them the last 2 years. But yeah, this construction stuff. Especially with me, I mean, I'll give you an example of why it's hard to keep up with basketball. So this last weekend we left for Thursday. Myself and my partner Jamie Lent flew commercial to Salt Lake City, Utah. Got up there, got swept. Okay, everybody came home on the charter jet. We came home on the commercial jet on Monday. Flew to Houston, flew here, got off the plane, did a game Tuesday, drove to Abilene, did a game Wednesday. Now I'm sitting here in 4 hours going to call Oklahoma State, Texas Tech baseball, 1 o'clock today, 1 o'clock tomorrow, 1 o'clock the next day. Monday, we're going to drive to Frisco. Tuesday, we're going to play Oklahoma. Wednesday, we're going to go to the Ranger game. Thursday, we're going to go to Waco. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're going to play Baylor. So it's something that I just can't put all that much investment into. Again, I wish I was more of a Texas Tech basketball insider for you guys. I'm just not. So I apologize for that. And I think the overall attitude from Texas Tech fans is a little bit of panic because they see all these signees going all across the country. And let's just say Oklahoma State, they get the kid from Arizona State. They get the 2 kids from Sammy Houston State. They get, this and that. Kansas putting their roster together. And of course, Arizona's doing their thing. And I think I saw Wichita State's going to return 10 of 12 players. Congratulations to Paul Mills. That's quite the feat. But I think we have to trust in this process because I know one thing. They're really good at roster building. They did it at North Texas. They've done it at Texas Tech virtually every year, rebuilt another roster. But they tend to be a little bit more deliberate is the word about it in adding. JT Toppin was a very late add to the roster the first year that he came here. So I trust in those guys. And right now it's you don't have all the stars and things in place, and you got guys transferring out like crazy. I don't blame Lawan Watts for going. It wasn't a great fit here for him. The fans seem to think he was immediately going to be Darian Williams, and he just wasn't that kind of player. And off he goes. We still don't know what Christian Anderson's going to do, whether he's going to portal it or, he said he's going to go to the NBA, but there's rumors that he might be getting in the portal. So it's a big mess that I'm going to let the millionaires take care of, not the dude that's talking to you guys on Friday morning. I have no shot in making a roster.
Well, Jeff, I think the note you had on Toppin being a late portal addition, is really important, because if I remember right, last year, like Donovan Atwell and some of these other guys were pretty late ads. Does that sound right?
Yeah, definitely. And, Donovan comes here and hits, I think, 30 more threes than any other Red Raider has ever hit. I mean, it was just amazing to watch him operate. And I'm really going to miss him. And one of the worst parts about March Madness is I saw his dad after the game with Alabama, and he looked just completely dismayed that his son's collegiate career was over. And but man, I sure did love me some Donovan Atwell. So, I mean, Ryan, there's still got to be guys out there. There's still got to be guys to put this thing together. And Kellen Buffington, the GM, is there for that reason. So I know he's confident in his abilities. Let's put it that way.
Well, I can tell you that if this NCAA, like 5 to play 5 thing ends up going through, like Donovan Atwell would still have a year of eligibility. So that maybe wasn't the last we saw of Donovan Atwell.
Yeah, I have no idea if that's a possibility. No clue.
All right, let's get some baseball in here. Is it time to hit the panic button?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, massive panic button. How big is the panic? How big can we make it?
It's a
like
giant.
the size of a trampoline. Yeah, we should hit that. Yeah. Texas Tech is in a fight with Arizona for the last spot in the Big 12 tournament. Might miss the Big 12 tournament if you can't pull it and go in the right direction. This is a massive series coming up with Oklahoma State. I think the Cowboys have underachieved. They've been beat up like Texas Tech's been beat up. We're down about 5 pitchers and starting our best middle relief pitcher today for his first start of the season. So, this team can hit. It's number 1 in the Big 12 in batting average, and still feels like they struggle to score runs. So how that works, I don't know. But at one point had TCU doubled up 24-12 in base hits and lost, and it's been a crazy year, just wild. And last year's team was the worst, I think, since 1984, but has way more wins in conference than this team currently has. So they've got to get it going. They got 3 conference series to figure it out: Oklahoma State, Baylor, and Cincinnati. And if you don't get it figured out, you might be staying home. So, yeah, it's a big series coming up. And you guys know the reason we're going 1-1-1 this weekend, right?
No.
George Strait's in town, boys.
That's right. Yeah. Yes. The reason the spring game was moved.
Yep. Boy, George has had a lot. He better tip his cap. And because all the parking has been dedicated to George Strait concert. And, yeah. And that's a big campus, boys. There's a lot of parking. And,
wow.
Yeah, so people are really excited about this weekend. And the setup at the Jones is just going to be outrageous. And right there, I think at midfield. And tickets are going, and the hotel rooms are full, and the merchants are happy, and we get baseball at 1-1-1, which I've never seen before. So
yeah, no kidding. Real quick, Hacks, is this an NIL thing with Tech baseball? Is there just a lot of money being spent in other places? Like it feels like this is not a team playing to its potential, and I should say that. A program like Tim Tadlock's too good of a coach for this team to be this program to be this down.
Yeah, I think there's some of that going on. And when you look at football, you think, of course, Cody Campbell and Dusty Womble. When you look at basketball, there's Dusty Womble and many, many other very wealthy businessmen lining in behind Dusty. The Sellers family donated so much with softball that they put them, in the national, went from really irrelevant to a national championship series, not just the Women's College World Series, but that 3-game set with Texas to win it all, and 44-4 this year, and renamed the field after them. there does not at this moment seem to be that person that has stepped up for baseball. And you're so right, Ari. I mean, when I got here, it was, almost immediately 2 Big 12 conference championships, and that's with Texas and Oklahoma in it. It was Tim Tadlock's resume is incredible. 4 trips to the College World Series. The Texas Tech in its entirety had never been before Tim Tadlock. And then, just all of the regionals and the super regionals and the 40-win seasons and all this. And then COVID killed the best team that we ever had in 2020. I don't even think it was close. I think that team would have won a national championship. And since then, everything's changed. NIL arrives. I do draw some Mike Gundy parallels with Tim Tadlock. And they're, not, slower to grab a hold of it. And know just what it's going to be like. But listen, since we're on the Big 12 show, this is a Big 12 problem, okay? It's not just a Texas Tech problem. Because if you're one of the elite pitchers that doesn't go out of high school to the Major League Baseball, the massive money is being offered by every SEC school that wants to really compete in baseball. So if you want to get the bag, as the kids say, as a pitcher, you're going to the SEC, and that is and then all of a sudden you turn into a farm club. As Texas Tech has seen Arkansas take 4 players over the last 4 years from here. We've got this kid Jackson Burns right now, who's a redshirt freshman, who looks like a big leaguer. He's going to be starting for us on Saturday. You just have this awful feeling of, well, where's that kid going to be pitching next year?
Right. No, well said. That's a great point.
It's an overall Big 12 problem, and I don't know how you solve it. And because at this place, there's money going all over the joint. But baseball, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, there's nobody stepping up and paying $1 million for a pitcher at baseball, and that's what happened for softball. But she's the best in the land, right?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dynamic, and I'm hoping Big 12 baseball doesn't get left behind.
Well said, and you're the right person to talk about it with. Jeff Haxton, voice of Texas Tech basketball, baseball. You're the best, buddy. Safe travels and enjoy George Strait, man.
I'm not going. I'll be saluting him from afar. But again, sorry, I'm not more of the basketball expert right now.
Dude, you don't apologize for anything. You're the best, Hax.
Get me in November and I'll hook you up.
Yeah, for sure. I know what you're talking about. You're in the thick of baseball. I get it. All good, brother. Appreciate you.
Okay, guys. Thanks.
Jeff Haxton joining us here, Big 12 Today, Big 12 Radio. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Underway in Tucson, and it's the Red Raiders with the first possession.
And strong. Good cut.
Petty the cut up and in with the left, and a pretty bounce pass to get it there from Anderson. Anderson got the switch.
What a pass.
And a 3 will finally go down. A much-needed 3 most of last year, and can definitely be a weapon off the bench.
Really good play call after the timeout.
Anderson with another 3.
Well, the game's on TV. They can look anytime they want. What a pass.
Top in again from Anderson. Texas Tech on top.
Just picking them apart with Jaden.
Toppin and Awaka again. Toppin wins.
Boy, Lawan Watts made a really nice drop-off pass to Toppin. Awaka's doing a good job guarding in space.
Toppin somehow spun into some free space and banks it in. Again, the 2-man game, Anderson and Toppin. Clear out on the left side. Toppin guarded by Karchenkov. Yes! Right shoulder, that left-hand jump hook, but he still gets there. Awaka, another offensive rebound, and a huge basket for the Wildcats. Bradley gets it off, and Texas Tech will win it.
The 2026 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Malachi Lawrence, defensive end, University of Central Florida.
Big 12 Radio, this is Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. That, James Westling. I am Ari Tepkin on social, at James Westling. I am at Ari Sports, A-R-I Sports. We've got our great segment. This could have been an email coming up in the final segment of the show today in about 40 minutes. But, of course, night one of the NFL Draft was last night. Huge night for the Big 12 and should be a huge draft overall for the Big 12. You said, what, 31 draft selections in 2025?
Yeah, 31 last year, and that was third most among the power conferences. So I expect the Big 12 to hit that number, and a lot of that will be determined tonight in rounds 2 and round 3, because I think there's a ton of meat there for the Big 12 when you look at Jacob Rodriguez and Abney and Stooks, who I thought may slide into the first round, Jake Gaudet, Michael Trigg, Josh Cameron, all guys that could be drafted in the second or third round, Elarm Zor, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple of others like Sam Hecht, the offensive lineman from K-State. Just real quick, Jeff Haxton had, he was apologetic for his lack of knowledge when it came to men's basketball.
In fact, he literally just texted me that right now, and I'm like, dude, you're fine. In fact, your point you made about Big 12 baseball was spot on. We're going to be talking about that with football right now.
Exactly, right? He was exceptional with some of his talking points with baseball. So why doesn't the Big 12, why aren't they able to pay those premium salaries, if you will, contracts, NIL deals, as guys in the SEC? And to me, it's like the Big 12 is just lacking in alpha. There are a lot of numbers. The Big 12 has 9 teams ranked in the top 50 of the RPI, 3 teams in the top 30. Cincinnati's 21, Kansas is 22, and West Virginia's 28. So you've got 9 teams in the top 50, but nobody cracks the top 20, right? So the Big 12 is maybe arguably one of the deepest conferences. All the numbers say that the Big 12 is the second deepest conference in college baseball. Cincinnati is one of only 6 teams that have 19 wins against top 100 opponents. The Big 12 has 9 teams in the top 45 of the KPI rankings. That's second most among all conferences. 8 Big 12 teams have 5 or more quad 1 wins. That's second most among all conferences. But to me, like, the league is missing that alpha where you have it in softball with Texas Tech. You have it in football with, I would argue, Texas Tech, BYU, and maybe even like a Utah in terms of pedigree, right? Men's basketball, toughest league in America, Arizona in the Final Four. So for baseball, I hate to use the phrase competitive balance, but I think that's what it is. There's been some great storylines, don't get me wrong, like West Virginia the last 2 years, Kansas this year. But is that where the league is lacking, is having that one top dog?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, and to Haxton's point, you know, there's so much money flowing in the SEC for baseball that it's really hard for the Big 12 to keep up and maintain. But I think what's interesting is this side of the conversation from football, especially here on the heels of the draft. Because, you know, look, Akeem Mesidor is the guy that left the Big 12 for more money to go to Miami. He got drafted. A.J. Halsey is the guy that left Houston for more money to go to LSU, and I'm sure he will hear his name called early on in the second round today.
Yeah, he's supposed to be like one of the first 5 picks in this second round.
So there's certainly guys that have left, but for 6 first-round picks, 3 in the top 10, with guys that didn't leave, Caleb Lomu, Spencer Fano, Jordan Tyson, Max Inahechor, especially because like it had been a while since Arizona State had a first-round pick. And you do lose Levitt, but you still have 2 first-round picks. UCF not losing a guy like Malachi Lawrence. They do lose Lee Hunter, but Lee Hunter, of course, goes from UCF to Texas Tech, so stays. So I think the Big 12 is far more competitive in football, and that's translating right now to draft picks in a huge way. So whereas like the SEC may run it in baseball, and there's certainly so much money that they have, like one SEC player in the top 10. A draft where we could see more Big 12 players come off the board, than any other time previously to eclipse 31 picks from last year. I think that will happen. Mm-hmm. So, on the one hand, there's certainly a reason for optimism on baseball, and we'll talk with Jamie Plunkett about this coming up. But it's obvious there's more money being infused with the SEC in baseball than any other sport. And I just think Big 12 football is telling a much richer story here, where there's obviously more money in football invested for every conference. So there's more competition, and it costs more money, and yet the Big 12 still retaining a lot of these guys.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And like the Big 12 and watching the draft, I guess the SEC, like when is the narrative going to start to develop about the SEC underachieving? Like you're getting all these 4- and 5-star recruits. You're not winning games in the college football playoff. You're spending more than anybody else in America, and you're not producing guys to the NFL. That is a massive, huge storyline. And I think of the SEC as like old money, your Walmarts, your Berkshire Hathaway, your like Warren Buffetts. And like the Big 12, we are the new age. Like we are the ChatGPT, the Tesla. Like at some point, both things can be good in their own way. But I look at like Texas Tech, Utah, and Arizona State were massive winners last night in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Texas Tech having a guy that goes number 2, Utah having 2 first-round offensive linemen, and then Arizona State, 2 guys taken in the first round. one of the top flight receivers, and Ahanichor, the offensive lineman, who's very much a new age, still learning how to play the position. Super high ceiling, but not everybody is bought in. And that's like the narrative that the Big 12 is consistently fighting against is it's just buy-in, I think, nationally. But having 3 guys taken in the top 10, having so many guys that are going to be taken tonight, like what would the new over-under be for round 2? Let's go round 2. Would you say over-under? I will set round 2 at 4.5.
That's a good number. I'd say over. I'll go as I did yesterday. You said the over-under at 5.5. I'd say over at 6. I'll say 4.5 for the second round. Give me 5.
Okay. Who are your 5?
So Tradan Stukes, and there's one more obvious one that I'm.
Jacob Rodriguez.
Thank you, Jacob Rodriguez. It's like there's a guy that it's escaped me right now. And then
you've got Stukes and Rodriguez.
I think Romello Height is a second-round pick.
Okay.
Well, I think one of Lee Hunter or Romello Height will be a second-round pick.
Okay.
I also think there's a shot that Sam Hecht could come off the board in the second round.
He would be one of mine.
Jake Golday and Dominique Orange as well are 2 guys that I think could come off the board in the second round.
And what about Bud Clark?
Didn't think about Bud Clark. I would say those guys are coming off the board today, whether that's second or third round.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe 4 is the right number just to be safe.
So we've got 7 prospects.
Is there anybody we aren't thinking about?
I mean, in terms of second-round guys, probably not. But I could see Elarm Zor, a third-round pick. I could see Genesis Smith. I could see Keith Abney, the corner. But cornerbacks are being, like, pushed down the draft board because there weren't that many taken last night outside of the kid from LSU that went 6th. When you've got McCoy still on the board, like, that's going to knock everybody down one line, if you will. But I would say over under second round, 4.5 seems to be the right number. I think it's either just under or just over. But in terms of tonight, when you factor in a ton of guys are going to be taken in the third round. I could see Josh Cameron. I could see Michael Trigg. I don't think we're quite Sawyer Robertson territory yet. But there are a ton of Big 12 dudes. Dominic Orange would be the other one that I think could come off the board. VJ Payne, maybe. Depending upon, although the safeties, that's another position where, like, you've still got the kid from Toledo on the board that could have been a top 15, top 20 pick.
Well, and going back to this top 10 thing, so last year you have Colorado and Arizona with two of the top 10 picks. This year it's Utah, Texas Tech, and Arizona State. So in 2 years you've got 5 programs in the Big 12 with top 10 picks. When you look at the Big 10, right? I mean, the majority of their top 10 picks are 1, 2, 3 schools.
Yeah. I only think of one, Ohio
State. Well, they have all the picks. And I'm just thinking historically in recent history, like Michigan, they've got, obviously a good amount of top 10 picks. And then, every now and then there's Oregon, now that Oregon's in the Big 10, you have to obviously think about that too. I forgot about that. I think the SEC has a little bit more variety, or has over the years. I mean, Auburn, Alabama, LSU. I mean, those are the usual suspects. But I mean, just top to bottom in this conference, the fact that you've got 5 different schools. I don't know that we've seen any other conference have that much over a 2-year period, just in terms of variety. Like, obviously, Ohio State's going to have that many. Like, they're going to have 5 top 10 picks, but that's just one school. For 5 different programs in the Big 12 to have top 10 picks over the last 2 years, it just feels like it's not common.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the last 2 drafts, and you're spot on. I mean, there's a couple of outliers, like Drake May went 3rd from North Carolina. LSU seems to consistently have guys going in the top 10. Caleb Williams was at USC when he got taken first in 24. Washington with Penix and the receiver, both drafted in the top 10. But, yeah, outside, like last year, it was all Michigan from the Big 10. Michigan had 2 guys taken in the top 10. Ohio State didn't have any. And then you go back to 2023, and it was Alabama and Ohio State. Also, Texas Tech had a guy taken 7th overall, Tyree Wilson, the linebacker. Georgia, it has been more depth versus like top 10 picks since 2022 when Trayvon Walker was the first overall pick. But, yeah, it's Michigan, it's Alabama. I see USC. there's not a lot of outliers outside of, the Big 12 does seem to have more variety.
All right, let's talk some baseball. Big 12 baseball with Jamie Plunkett, our weekly Friday guest, gets us caught up from Base 12 Sports. With James Westling, I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Malachi Lawrence ends that drive for K-State. He is swallowed up behind the line of scrimmage. Malachi Lawrence, a loss of 2. And third down and long, trouble on the edge, and they go back to back. This one belongs to Malachi Lawrence. Johnson on a 4th and 6. Scans. Backpedaling. Going the opposite way. Now he throws around the edge. In pursuit, UCF gets to him. Malachi Lawrence, one of their 2 vaunted pass rushers on the edge, ends that drive for K-State.
He's got our antennas up. And the antenna goes down. Malachi Lawrence again. This time, his first sack of the season.
That's just absolute force right there by Malachi Lawrence. It's a play if you're UCF. Here's Pryor, and he is swallowed up behind the line of scrimmage. Malachi Lawrence, a loss of 2, and one more play before the quarter break. Fox leaves the pocket to the numbers and track down. Malachi Lawrence finishes 3 here in Orlando with his UCF 9th.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios with James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin. Big 12 today, Big 12 Radio. Let's talk a little Big 12 baseball, shall we? Joining us from Base 12, as he does each and every Friday, we're talking with Jamie Plunkett here. Jamie, how are you?
Ari, James, how are we doing today?
Doing great. Let's start by talking about the best team in the Big 12 in college baseball, the Kansas Jayhawks. My Jayhawks, who are having a great year and had a fantastic midweek win over a ranked Nebraska team at home. This team's just rolling right now. I mean, they're winning series. They're going on the road. They took 2 of 3 from Oklahoma State. They beat UCF the weekend before that. They hit Nebraska in the midweek. They're rolling right now.
They really are, man. And it's so cool to see this team that Fitz has put together finally hit its stride like everybody kind of thought they could early in the season. And the way that they're doing it is just so impressive because it's incredibly balanced, both in the lineup and on the mound. None of their numbers are at a point when you think from like an analytics standpoint that it's not sustainable, right? So they're winning in sustainable ways with balance in the lineup. The pitching has really taken a huge step forward, especially with guys like Dom Vagley finally, kind of getting back to his best self on the weekend rotation. And now they have this huge series in Manhattan and a rivalry weekend with a chance to really kind of put a chokehold on the conference. But they've been amazing, and they aren't really showing any signs of slowing down from a production or an analytics standpoint. So hopefully that's the case moving forward.
Well, speaking of the analytics, like I see all these conference news and notes about the Big 12 having 9 teams in the top 51 of the RPI, all the teams that have 5 or more quad 1 wins. Cincinnati's one of only 6 teams that have 19 wins against top 100 teams. And like the theme seems to be that the Big 12 is the second best conference in America. Would you agree with that? And what are the strengths overall compared to the other leagues?
I would say that they're neck and neck with the ACC for being the second best conference in the country. And I think what goes into that is we've seen the middle of the conference get much stronger this year. When you think about teams like Utah and BYU winning games that they wouldn't have won a couple years ago, their depth is a little bit better, especially Utah's is this season. And when you consider that the Big 12 has some premier brands that maybe aren't achieving what folks expected them to achieve this year, specifically Arizona, the fact that the league still has as much top end strength as it has from a metric standpoint. You mentioned Cincinnati. Kansas also has a great resume. UCF, despite their past 2 weekends, still has a pretty strong resume as well. TCU and Oklahoma State teams seem to be teams that are starting to gain some momentum. This is a league that is competitive weekend in and weekend out, where there's no guarantee of who's going to win a baseball game, and it's because of the quality of baseball being played top to bottom, not that there's a lack of depth or talent in the league. And when you compare the Big 12 to the ACC specifically, I think we're starting to notice that maybe the ACC is lacking a little bit of depth that we've seen from that league in the past, and that's allowed kind of the door to open for the Big 12 to make its case as the second best league in the country.
What are the big series this weekend to pay attention to?
I'd definitely be paying attention to the Sunflower Showdown in Manhattan between Kansas State and Kansas. That's a series where if the Jayhawks can come away with a road series win there, really put their stamp on being the top team in the Big 12, that would be huge for their host opportunities. And then on the other side of that, Kansas State is still very much in the mix to finish in the top 4, get a bye in the Big 12 tournament. So this is an important series for them as well. I'd also be paying attention to West Virginia at Cincinnati. West Virginia has a little bit of an injury scare right now with Max Yale. They're not exactly sure if he's going to be available for them this weekend. That would be a huge loss for them in their rotation. And Cincinnati is a team that just went on the road to Orlando and took 2 of 3 from UCF. So those are 2 teams that are maybe kind of ships in the night a little bit as far as the trajectory is concerned. But for West Virginia, they're sitting there at second in the conference, hoping to try to track down Kansas with a weekend series against the Jayhawks coming up in May. So that's an important series there as well. And then lastly, I would point to Utah hosting UCF. All 3 of the top teams in the standings are on the road against capable opponents this weekend. So there's a lot of opportunity for teams to make up some ground in the middle of the conference, and there's an opportunity for some of these top teams in the Big 12 to start setting themselves apart.
Yeah, how many teams are like on the bubble for the postseason right now?
I would say probably 3 or 4. Two teams that really are, excuse me, two teams that are really kind of on the bubble right now are Baylor and surprisingly Arizona State. Baylor obviously losing the weekend series to TCU last weekend hurt them a little bit in the bubble race. I would have probably had them as one of the last 4 teams in prior to that weekend, probably one of the first 4 teams out this week because of those 2 losses on Sunday in that doubleheader. And then Arizona State has really started to struggle, and their RPI is taking a big hit. They're down in the 40s now, and that's kind of where the cut line is for at-large bids from Power 4 leagues. So, if you're Arizona State hosting Baylor this weekend, that's another series to probably keep an eye on because both of those teams are starting to want to right the ship in order to be on the right side of the bubble come end of May.
Talking with Jamie Plunkett here, Base 12 Sports. What are some of the other key players? We've talked a ton over the last few weeks about Landon Hairston, and he's still on a tear. Who else are the players to pay attention to?
Well, one big name is coming back this weekend, and that's Tommy Lepore for TCU. He was their Friday night starter all of last season. He got the Friday night start the first weekend of this year against Vanderbilt in Globe Life Field at Arlington, and then had an elbow injury, a scare where they thought he might have to have Tommy John. Fortunately, does not. Has been working his way back into the fold. Started throwing a few weeks ago. Faced live hitters on Wednesday of this week for the first time, and has been cleared to come back this weekend for TCU. He's not going to throw a ton. We'll probably only see 1 inning from him. But when you think about a TCU team that is loaded with talent and has struggled at times because of their pitching issues, getting a guy like Tommy Lepore back could change the complete makeup of this rotation, change the complete trajectory for TCU baseball in 2026. And so getting him back this weekend is definitely a huge storyline to watch, even if he only throws 1 inning, because with the Frogs having some struggles on Friday nights, if you get your Friday night ace back and he can even give you just a handful of innings here and there, that's got to be a huge boost and a huge morale boost as well.
Yeah.
What happened in the Cincinnati UCF series? That was a massive win for Cincinnati.
It was, I think when it comes down to it, Cincinnati just out-executed at the plate, especially on that Sunday game that was a crazy back-and-forth game, right? John Smith hits the grand slam to go ahead. And then they get multiple home runs in the 9th for Cincinnati. One guy gets ejected. I believe it was Derek Pitts that gets tossed for his bat toss. And at the end of the day, they just had a little bit more pitching at the end of the weekend than UCF did. It was a wildly competitive series. And when you think about UCF from a pitching perspective, you still have to recognize that Braden Smith hasn't returned since taking that line drive off his face in West Virginia. And that's been a big issue for them. Mateo Gray has been pretty good, really good, in fact, in his starts in Smith's absence, but that takes away from your bullpen a little bit. And right, the ripple effect of these things can't be overstated. And then from a Cincinnati perspective, Nate Taylor's been lights out on Friday nights, and they've gotten some really good depth behind him on the mound. But Cincinnati's one of those teams that when they get hot, they're really, really hot. And then when they cool down, it's hard to see how they can heat back up again. So right now it feels like they're kind of on that upswing.
Jamie, when you look at this conference, is there a level of parity here that says there's probably not a national championship contender? How many teams do you think are built to win and get to at least Omaha, in your estimation? Just give us a sense of the ceiling here of this conference.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Ari, because, health obviously plays a huge factor. When it comes to Omaha potential right now, I would have to identify Kansas and West Virginia as probably the 2 teams that are best equipped to do it. When you look at the way they're winning baseball games, the depth they have on the roster, their ability to roll different guys out there in different situations and have them execute. Those are the 2 teams that probably stand out to me as having the most Omaha potential at this moment. Then you start to look at teams like Arizona State and TCU, who arguably have the most talented rosters in the league and have been underperforming to an extent. If those are 2 teams that can solve some of their issues over the last month of the season, then they definitely have Final 8 potential as well, at least super regional potential. So the depth in the league, as far as talent is concerned, as far as rosters are concerned, is pretty good. But right now, I would have to identify Kansas and West Virginia as probably the 2 with the best chance to reach Omaha at this point.
We had Jeff Haxton on the program earlier. He was talking about Texas Tech being dominant really at every sport except baseball. What do you see in terms of needs for Texas Tech? I guess not immediately, but just as you evaluate the program, what's missing, you think?
I think the biggest challenges for Texas Tech, and it's interesting that you put it in the context of the rest of the department having so much success. Retention is one of their biggest issues. And so you talk about some of the talented guys that have come through that program and then left for other places. Arkansas has poached quite a few guys from them over the last few seasons. And it would be really interesting to see what happened if Texas Tech got serious about keeping some of their best talent on campus, right? Lincoln Garcia and Jesse Rusnick are two really good freshmen. Jackson Burns has been a dream come true for them on the mound as a redshirt freshman this year. And so you start to see pieces of this developmental vision for Tim Tadlock in this program. But if they can't keep those guys on campus, then you have to hit the reset button every single season. So for me, the biggest challenge for Texas Tech is how do you raise the funds to keep those guys on campus to keep them from playing in a different uniform next year? Because at the end of the day, that's still the best way to win championships, is to bring in young talent, develop it over time, and have it stay on campus and be successful for you. And that's been arguably the biggest challenge for Texas Tech over the last few years. And there's a pretty simple solution in this new era of college athletics to keep that from happening. We've seen that blueprint work in other areas at Texas Tech. Now it's just a matter of whether there's buy-in to do it for baseball.
Yeah, well said. Great stuff. Jamie, it's a lot of fun to have you on each and every Friday. I look forward to it. And it's been a fun baseball season, and can't wait to see how this thing finishes out. Thanks for your time, buddy.
Always a pleasure, fellas.
Oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
Just let people know how they can get Base 12 website, newsletter. I subscribe to the newsletter. It's fantastic. Just give people a sense of how they can get your content in Base 12.
Absolutely. Just go to base12sports.substack.com. It's a newsletter that goes out 4 times a week. We've got deep dives into coaches after interviews with coaches. We've got analytics breakdowns of every team every week, and then previews that just went out this morning, actually, for all of the weekend series, breaking down all the action that's going to happen across the Big 12 this week.
Awesome. And a podcast or anything else?
Yeah, we've got a podcast too. It's called the Flyover League. You can access that from the Substack. It's myself and Noah Darling. Just kind of an audio version of breaking down all the action across the Big 12. We just posted an interview with Dan Fitzgerald a couple weeks ago. We've got some stuff coming up with some other coaches here in the coming weeks as well. So yeah, keep it to the Flyover League and Base 12 Sports.
Awesome. Great stuff. Jamie Plunkett, Base 12 Sports. Go check out the great work he's doing. It's awesome. And then, of course, also covers TCU, Horned Frog, Blitz, whatnot. Jamie, you're the best. Thanks, buddy. All right, Jamie Plunkett joining us here at Big 12 today. Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. On the way next, it's the most overinflated stories of the week. It's the segments, the stories. It could have been an email. Next.
6 on 3rd down, but Tony scrambling and gets dropped in the backfield. Najee Kelly.
Sets up first down the goal for Cincinnati from the 8. Quarterback draw with Sorsby, and he gets swallowed up immediately. Najee Kelly atones for Muzzle, but he stays on side, right? He's not jumping off side. He's doing a good job in the passing game. First down, Andrew Paul on his first carry. Swallowed at the line of scrimmage.
But a good job up front, too, beating the block. 55, John Walker.
Editor.
Oh, look out. Kelly made the hit. The ball comes loose. Rodney Laura has it, and the officials say he's also got a touchdown.
Talked about him before. I mean, he's a problem. He's just a problem waiting to happen.
Steps up. Scooped up. It's going to be a quick 6.
Make plays. Here's Kelly Lawson right in the middle. He bluffs up and then drops back. So that when the defensive end knocks that ball out of the quarterback's hands, it's almost like a blocked kick.
Daniels will give to Williams, and Williams denied. Najee Kelly, the former Miami Hurricane, coming up with a stop. Nowhere for the running back to go, but Kelly at the top of the screen, number 9, just slips through.
in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Caleb Lomu, tackle, Utah.
Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. What size TV do you have in your living room?
I don't know. You measured it when you were at my house with your brain.
That was like 7 years ago.
It's the same TV, no updates. I thought it was an 80-incher. You said it was maybe 50-something? Maybe I just sit too close to the TV. I don't know. It feels huge.
I feel like something's wrong with you. It's sort of your duty as the man of the household to not only know the size of your television, but to be in a constant search for a larger television.
Okay.
So I've observed that there may not be any greater disconnect between men and women, wife and husband, than the needed size of a television in your living room. Okay, so I've slowly in my family room kind of increased the size. Every time my wife's like, it's too big. We currently have a 65-inch television.
Okay.
It is not too big.
I think that's what we're rocking.
It's not even big enough. So I bought an 85-inch television.
Nice.
I was going to buy 100. My wife lost her mind at the 85-inch TV. And I'm like, dude, honey, every time I bought a TV, it's been too big. And the thing is, like, our living room has high ceilings, so it actually fits in terms of the size. Like, we need a bigger screen for a large wall and ceiling that we have.
Right, you have a lot of space.
But she's like upset. She's like, well, if you're going to get this big, you should have gotten the frame. You know, the frame TV, which is like, that's a big one that people are getting now so that it looks like a frame when it's not on.
Yeah.
It looks really cool, but I'm like, babe, I'm in the market for like the best TV I could possibly buy.
And like knowing your 18 tabs open on the reg, hunting for the best deals.
Dude,
you got the
I have
best
been
deal on the planet.
On the prowl. I've been doing
of research.
Weekly stops at the Best Buy outlet on my way home from the show every day.
Weekly stops.
Because the inventory is constantly changing with the open box.
Time out. There's a Best Buy outlet?
You better believe there is. It's on Midway and 635, right by the actual Best Buy that's right there. So it's on my way home. So, like, basically for the last 2 months, I have been stopping there at least once a week just to check out the new inventory. And yesterday I pulled the trigger. Finally, something that tickled my fancy. You can't find it online. It's all local inventory.
Yeah, I'm just checking. Outlet deals, clearance deals of the week. I'm just dabbling.
I'm telling you, just duck your head in and see.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Because I nothing frustrates me more than paying for electronics. I still have like an iPhone 12. Our TV came with the house. It's built into the wall.
No.
Yeah, very much so. I haven't bought a TV since 2003.
See, you don't. Of all the things that are wrong with you,
there are many.
You do not pay enough attention to your I feel like you're not that's a very masculine thing.
Technology?
No, TV specifically.
Oh, TV specifically. Okay.
Yeah, especially for a sports fan. Like what?
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't want to question your manhood here, James, because you're bigger and stronger than me.
Well,
and you could
like wearable technology. I've always been very much anti-wearable technology.
Okay.
I rock these handmade bracelets that my daughter and boys made for me.
Love it.
So they say things like "love you" and "dad number one," things like that.
Of course.
And when I was rocking the wearable technology, I bought like a $30 knockoff Apple Watch that was from Amazon that would work for about a year, and then I'd get in the pool with it or something, and it would explode.
I mean, if you recall, I used to wear an Apple Watch. I got so angry at its constant vibration one day that I, during the show, took it off and chucked it across the wall.
Threw it at Taman.
And then have not. Well, it wasn't meant to be at Taman. It was just to the wall. He just happened to be sitting in the spot where it would go. But I mean, I've gone back to the analog watches. It's been a game changer for me. It doesn't vibrate. Yeah. The only thing that's funny is sometimes I'll attempt to look at it to see what notifications I may be getting, and it's like, oh wait, no.
It's just the time staring you back at the face.
So basically, your assessment of the situation is you're just not a big tech guy, or you're cheap.
No, both.
Both, yeah.
Both. I mean, I'm very invested in AI and.
Yeah, but you keep going back to tech. Like, I have no issues or qualm, but it's not just it's the televisions, dude.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The TVs.
I'm with you. That's important.
It's a very guy thing to be very into their TVs and well, it's got to be bigger.
No, you're right.
And then it's always the wife's job to push back. Like I'm telling you, friends of mine, like other people I've talked to about this, same thing where it's like, oh yeah, my TV's this size, the wife thinks it's too big. And in a lot of cases, they'll say, think it's too big, but then they get around it, and it's like, well, it's perfect size.
This is amazing because I bet if I walked home after the show and I said, love, I want to buy a new TV this weekend, she would be ecstatic. She'd be like, you want to spend money on something fun? Okay.
You should do it.
Here for it.
Go even further than that. Stop into the Best Buy outlet on your way home and come back with a new TV.
I love a good outlet. There's nothing better.
I mean, you can go and find one for a couple $100.
You never know what you're going to get in there. You never know. Yeah, usually not as crowded. All the things.
Although, with the car size you have, you probably wouldn't be able to come home with the TV because I would imagine your size car.
My wife's driving a Range Rover. Thank you very much. It may or may not be 11 years old, but it's still a Range Rover. Okay, where do you think I put my sod?
Premium gas, huh?
Sod father this weekend. Yeah, premium gas.
Wow.
We didn't think that one through.
Millionaire, huh?
Premium gas, and I'm the one filling the tank. I asked her, first time she filled the tank, I said, how much was the tank? She said, I don't know. I never look at that. I can tell you that I do. Life's too short.
Well, life's too short to pay for premium gas.
I also drive really slow when I'm in that vehicle because I don't want to burn the gas. I accelerate at a pedestrian level. I accelerate slower than anybody when I'm driving that thing.
That's amazing.
Those RPMs are not even touching me.
Your wife is like, can we go faster? Like, you know how much money it costs to go fast, honey?
We're in economy mode right now. I'm super excited for the weekend because this is my first weekend like at home since December 20th. I went back and looked last night with no plans. Wow. I asked my wife last night, I said, what are we doing this weekend? Like, I'm pumped up. She has no idea. No logistics. I don't have any. It's going to be a soft launch. Like 4:30 tomorrow afternoon, we'll figure it out.
Nice. All right.
Soft launch into the weekend.
Meanwhile, my 7-year-old, Aaron, is returning from a trip that he was taking this week with my parents to South Padre Island.
What?
Tonight. Yeah, that's been a whole thing. My mom is a travel writer, and so she's getting these trips. They're called Skip Gen trips. So basically, she gets these free trips to take grandchildren on. If you recall, we did a Disney trip with my mom. So this was one that came up, and we're like, yeah, absolutely. So he flew down with my parents to South Padre, and they've been there ever since. He's built this like ridiculous sandcastle, like an obscene sandcastle that he built through these sandcastle lessons he got. He's seen dolphins and
sandcastle lessons.
Yeah, he was holding an alligator. I wish I would have sent the picture to Anthony so that I could show it because it's extremely impressive. I don't know how quickly he'd be able to turn this thing around. It's all on me, but if it's possible, would be really cool to see and show everybody how insanely cool this is. As I quickly try and do this.
All right, if I was going to buy a new TV this weekend.
But then, so he comes back tonight, and then tomorrow morning we're leaving to go up to Oklahoma, Camp Grady Spruce for a little camp out.
Okay, I was going to ask if you were still camping this weekend.
Yeah. Camp out starts tonight, but it's a 2.5-hour drive. We'll make it tomorrow morning.
All gas, no brakes.
No brakes.
How's the weather? There were some pretty gnarly tornadoes in Oklahoma this
week. I mean, since we're camping, if you recall, we had a mate. We were caught like basically a tornado camping once, so I would assume we're gonna have horrible weather.
You always have the best camping stories.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw my backyard on Airbnb for the World Cup and call it glamping. All right, these TVs are not that cheap, dude.
Well, I mean, okay. There are more expensive TVs. They range anywhere from $100 to $5,000, depending on the size and the specs.
Taman, chime in.
I 100% agree with everything Ari said about TVs because I have a 75-inch in my living room, but I want an 85-inch, and my wife is really upset about that. She's like, there's no need for an 85. I'm like, I'll just put the 75 in our bedroom, which is, we have a 55 in there. Our 55 used to be in our living room when we lived at our apartment. But we got a 75 when we moved into a house.
See, I took it upon me to just upgrade myself from 65 to 85 because I've gone from 55 to 65, and I'm just skipping that intermediate step, going straight to 85.
I wanted an 85 because I watched the Super Bowl, not this year, but last year at a buddy's house, and they had an 85, and I was like, I need an 85.
I got to get that.
This is a game changer.
It's a game changer.
It is.
It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I learned something new every day.
How expensive are these TVs?
I don't know. I'm on Best Buys. All right, let's just what you think mine's like a 60?
I don't remember.
You make fun of me all the time for it.
65 inches?
It is kind of sad that James does.
So if I need like an 85-inch
not only
TV
sad, it's
for
disgraceful.
sale, I can get one at Best Buy for $600. No way, dude.
Remember how much TVs used to cost, like in the 90s? Like a big 50-inch used to be like $3,000-$4,000. I think you'll be okay with 600, James.
Okay, we can show the sandcastle now. Anthony Smith, our producer with Big 12 Studios, is the best. All right, here is this ridiculous sandcastle my 7-year-old built in South Padre with some sandcastle instructions. Yeah, it's
there. There's a little bit of a delay.
There it is.
I believe it.
That is look at that thing. It's got stairs.
Where did he take the I'm fascinated by this. Where did he take the lessons? Here in Dallas?
No, my mom will write about the trip to South Padre, so they like basically this group, visits South Padre, puts together an itinerary of here are things you're going to do, and one of them included getting sandcastle tutelage on the beach. And so like you see the buckets behind him.
Yeah.
That's the key is those buckets, and he told me some of them don't have bottoms on them. So like you need a lot of like industrial sized buckets, but then you also need ones that have the bucket removed, the bottom removed, so you can kind of create the like layers on top,
This looks like a full-blown construction site.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Can he come over and redo our bathroom? This is amazing. Construction buckets everywhere. I'm quite impressed. I'm not buying a new TV this weekend, by the way. This is ridiculous.
You got to stop at the outlet. That's what you got to do. Stop at the outlet, dude. If you want me to hold your hand, I will.
I might need it.
Yeah.
Like,
don't worry. It doesn't bother me. I don't have to watch TV at your house.
Summers are not good for us. I don't get paid as much. And my wife is unemployed during the summer. She only gets paid when she's working. So summers are that's not the time.
James,
that's not the time.
To Ari's point, outlets are incredible. When we moved into our house, we needed a new fridge. And the fridge that we wanted was $1,200. Went to the outlet, got it for $500. Same fridge. The only difference was the reason why it was marked down so much was because it was a display at the regular Best Buy, but it never sold. So they sent it to the outlet, $700.
Yeah, the TV I bought is 60% cheaper than buying it new, and it is in excellent condition.
That's a deal.
That
is a deal. All right, where can I get a new washer and dryer? That is one thing.
Best Buy outlet.
Best Buy outlet?
I mean, or you could pay full price and go to.
No, I'm not paying full price. I refuse. But I'm also very tired. We don't even like the digital display doesn't even work on our dryer, so it's just the hottest heat, the longest cycle. All of my shirts have shrunk 3 sizes.
You know that like they now make appliances that are not built to last. And I saw a video of they showed like a washing machine that was made in 1984, and just how like it is such a superior product. It's kind of insane.
There's a ton of stuff like that.
But like especially washer and dryers, because I remember like I bought one of like the fill like, the not the top fill ones, the like the ones where you put them on the side. I forget what they call them. Thinking like, oh, this will be perfect, and like these are terrible. Like just appliances now, they're built so horribly, and they have so many bells and whistles where it's like I don't need. Can you just wash the clothes? Like I have friends that have the refrigerator that you can like see inside without opening it. Like who needs that? Can you just give me something that refrigerates my stuff? I bought a refrigerator. It's like download the app. Like for what? What do I need an app for my refrigerator?
That's amazing.
To see if it's on? Is the refrigerator on? Perfect.
Best Buy outlet, number 3 on Yelp for appliances. Lowe's outlet is number 2.
It's a good one.
Made Appliance outlet in Addison is number 1.
All right, there you go. Do you have any, this could have been an email?
I've got so many, this could have been an email.
Overblown stories that probably just could have been an email.
How have we not talked about the Rossini-Vrabel fallout?
Man, is that story, I'll be honest, this came up a few weeks ago on this could have been an email, and I feel like now I'm buying all the conspiracy theories.
Very much so.
Her child Michael is the son of Mike Vrabel,
named after Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, it's
the affair was ongoing for at least 6 years. Photos have surfaced of them together 6 years ago.
Do you think if your wife was cheating on you for 6 years, you'd know?
Yeah.
I would think so, right?
Yeah. Has her husband spoke out?
No, but
I'm
there's
pretty
also
sure.
rumors that he's the one that's hired the PI to get the pictures, and that he's kind of slow leaked some of this stuff. So maybe this has been a long-term play for him.
Yeah.
Where he's been mad about this for years.
Good for him, dude.
Good for him.
Good for him. Take every dollar. Every dollar. And then the Paige Shiver, Sharon Moore story that was this morning. She was on Good Morning America.
Yeah, that's a sad one. I don't want to touch that.
Now let's not touch
That
it.
one could have been an email.
It could have been an email.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over my timeline. It definitely could have been an email.
The subject line, Sharon Moore, bad dude.
Very much so.
Paige Shriver speaks out.
Michigan Athletic Department knew about it, covered it up.
Yeah.
Whoopsies.
But I'm sure Kyle Whittingham will be fine there. All right. We're back on Monday talking, of course, all things NFL draft from the weekend. Over under 31.5, James.
Over.
Pushing
that over.
Yes. Enjoy the draft tonight and tomorrow. Thanks, of course, to our great producers, Anthony Smith with Big 12 Studios, Tama Turner, T. Chains with TuneIn, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn. Thanks to James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. Have a great weekend. We're back on Monday, but for now, we're out. Peace.